All right, welcome on into another episode, the last episode of the week of DCU Daily on Oh So Curious. It may be a Friday, but we are going to be with you and talking Superman just the same. It's the 4th of July in the US, so if you guys celebrate, then congratulations. I hope you guys are having a safe, happy 4th of July. But we are here to talk to you about Superman. We're here to talk to you about some Marvel stuff. We're going to talk about the new Leonardo DiCaprio movie called One Battle After Another. There's a new clip out there, a new poster. We'll dive into some, more news from the world of DC. We have a James Bond fan casting today on the show as well, and of course, we have to talk about Superman a ton, as we always do. But specifically today, we're going to get into 5 reasons why Superman will succeed and 5 reasons why Superman will fail. And then, as we do on every Friday show here, we talk about your comments. So we'll bring your comments, questions, and fan theories in during the Q&A session. So to do that and so much more, as per always, let me get that beautiful news intro out, and we'll get the show started.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number 2.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding. You're kidding.
I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see chords.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right. Well, it's going to be a packed show, as it usually is. And I mentioned before the show, before the intro, I should say, we're talking about Superman. We're talking about some Marvel stuff. We're going to get into some Fantastic Four news, some Ironheart stuff. We have some other DC, news and conversation to get into. A lot of James Gunn, of course, as always. We even have Wendell Pierce crossing over between the worlds of Marvel and DC. He was in Thunderbolts, of course. He's in Superman. So we'll get into that. We have a James Bond fan casting, a long requested James Bond fan casting. I think I saw a comment from Nelson the other day asking, like, yeah, go ahead and do a James Bond fan casting. Why don't you? So today we're going to do that. And of course, to do that and so much more, as always, with me, the man who picked out a lot of the names for that James Bond fan casting, John. How are you doing today?
America. Happy 4th, ladies and gents. I know, let's just ignore like the current events right now. Just like celebrate America. Remember, if you're shooting off fireworks, please be safe. I don't know why I had a southern accent right there, but just have a happy and safe holiday. Just have a cookout. Just eat some, corn on the cob, some burgers, hot dogs, all that shit. Just please be safe. Be smart. Don't get too drunk. Just don't get drunk and shoot off fireworks. You can shoot off fireworks, just don't get drunk launching it. I'm just saying. Please be safe. Anyway, welcome to the show.
Hello, howdy.
I'm just saying, PSA.
No, it's fair. It's good advice. It's good advice. I mean, hey,
don't be an idiot.
You would be surprised,
the best advice I ever gave you, Dwight. Don't be an idiot. Change my life.
Change my life. Love it. Oh my god. You know what I noticed? By the way, just quickly since you brought this up, the Daily Planet mock-up that they put together for that press junket where they brought in all the social media influencers and everything like that? In that set that they built up and they did all the photo shoots and stuff, they have these boards on the wall where you can pin stuff on, right? And so they have copies of the newspaper, like the front pages of the Daily Planet. They have notes from Lois and stuff, like Meet Superman, or interview notes and times and dates. They also have memes, like printed memes. If you're worked in an office, you have seen printed memes, just thumbtack to the board and to the bulletin board. And basically one of them or two of them show memes from The Office. One of them is the Steve Carell, the proud, teary-eyed face. There's a couple of Dwight memes in there. I'm like, oh god, we can all relate to this. So apparently the US version of The Office is canon to the Daily Planet, therefore the DCU. So, with that though, John, we're gonna get things started on the Marvel front today, very first and foremost, before we get into the DC side of things. But if you guys are joining us, then make sure to hit that like button. We do appreciate that, of course. Or that allows us to get more eyes on the show. And as always, we do appreciate everybody watching, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching after the show. Get in the comments down below and let us know what you think about the topics and if you're enjoying. So with that, John, let's dive into it, shall we? The very first thing on this Friday show is going to be a lot of Marvel news, including you might see a familiar face crossing over from the world of Marvel into DC next week, and that is, of course, Wendell Pierce. He's been in The Wire, he's been in Jack Ryan, and then he was recently in Thunderbolts. We know, of course, he's also in Superman as Perry White, so he plays a senator in Thunderbolts. So it looks like here in this deleted scene from the movie, which obviously they left out of the theatrical cut, you see the Congressman Gary that Wendell Pierce plays in the movie, his reaction to the announcement that, hey, these guys are the new Avengers, and of course he played more of like a character. It was a bit of a character actor role in the movie, Wendell Pierce did, but I'm guessing that he might stick around. John, like, what do you think? Is this? Are you surprised to see that they're putting this out there now, therefore semi making it canon? And then also, are you looking forward to seeing Thunderbolts when it comes to Disney Plus?
I'm probably not gonna watch it, but cute scene, all that shit. Yeah.
Fair enough. I should probably change the graphic. There you go. We're getting into some MCU news right now. So speaking of the MCU, John, Black Panther director Ryan Coogler, he broke down. I can give you the spoiler because we talked about it the other day. Mephisto's MCU debut, and then also the spoiler return was once planned, which we'll leave that in for a second. Of course, I think the big spoiler return was there was this idea that maybe Dormammu was pulling the strings on the hood, which would seem obvious based on the comic book origins, but again, it doesn't look like that's the direction they went in. Let's take a look at what Ryan Coogler said. He said, it's funny, when I first met John Watts in 2016 and he was doing Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man was like a basement level, like fighting underneath the street level villains. Then by the time No Way Home comes around, he's dealing with Doctor Strange and going through different realities and shit. I just absolutely love that we're not meeting him in WandaVision or Agatha all along. You're meeting him through this stressed out young black genius. Now Ryan Coogler is talking about Mephisto. So when you watch the show, it's like, oh, that was how you always were going to meet him? It wasn't going to be in Loki. That's the trickster. That's how he works. That's where he's going to be, in a pizza shop in Chicago. Like, where would you absolutely never expect him? So I guess they were going for surprise. If he was outside, we wrapped him up in tarps and the poor guy had to walk like 2 steps at a time. So they definitely kept it a secret, John. They made sure that Sacha Baron Cohen and his cameo as Mephisto did not get noticed before the show came out. So nobody but the crew of friends or friends of crew were allowed to into the set on those days. So we would cast extras who were family members and beg everyone to keep it a secret. You do your best. So Ryan Coogler really talking about how they spent a lot of time, keeping that Mephisto cameo a secret, then mentioning the idea of, bringing in Dormammu potentially. He said, if you look to publishing, Parker's powers is drawn from Dormammu, who is also a very epic character in the MCU. We've already seen Dormammu in the first Doctor Strange movie, and who would have been very exciting to play with. But as we developed it, we realized that Mephisto was a better thematic fit for what the show is about. So essentially, Mephisto came in and kind of took over, the role of Dormammu in the comics for the Hood, John. What do you think about all of these? There's more quotes in this article, but we'll get into that one by one. But your thoughts on Mephisto, the idea that they want to bring him in here, it was meant to be like this. You wouldn't expect him to be an Ironheart, right? Like, and that's our reaction was that a couple of days ago when we learned about it. Like, are you surprised that Ryan Coogler went in this direction?
I get what he's talking about. Like, it's, like the whole thing of like the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. I understand that. Like, it's like, and you wouldn't expect like someone like who is essentially Marvel's version of the devil to like, be in this rinky dink little show that's 6 episodes and it's more focused on, this little black girl who's like doing Iron Man shit. So it's like I get that, but at the same time, it's like really fucking stupid. Like it's I feel like it's like that moment in what is it? Knives Out 2, where they're like, it's so stupid. It's genius. No, it's just dumb. Like I hate to quote that awful movie, but it's just like it's so dumb, it's genius. No, it's just dumb. Like it's like you think it's like this genius thing. It's like, oh, he's doing no, it's just fucking stupid. Like I get where Ryan Coogler is going for, but it's still at the end of the day, just because it subverts expectations, which just like Ryan Johnson does in the god awful Knives Out movies. Oh, just because it subverts expectations, it automatically means it's good. No, sometimes when you subvert expectations, it turns out to be really stupid. So, like for instance, speaking of Marvel, when John Watts was talking about how he found a Reddit thread where it was like, this is how I think Andrew and Toby are going to be introduced in the movie, and it was the exact moment of like, Andrew and Toby talking to Tom Holland on the rooftop after Aunt May died. And he's like, okay, let's not do that. And the thing is, what they came up with was actually way better. It was more of like a scene of levity, but it still worked. And honestly, it turned out for the better. This is just kind of stupid. Like it's just like, oh hey, get it? Like Mephisto turns up in Ironheart. Okay. And so it's like now you have this like, and also he looks like shit. He's just like Sacha Baron Cohen in a suit, looking like he's in a Jack Sparrow cosplay. So it's just like, all right, okay, like I sure would it have been like, oh, Mephisto is coming in and like doing all this, like, oh, WandaVision and Agatha all along. Okay, here's the thing. You need the good writing to make sure all of these things work, whether it's subverting expectations or meeting expectations. If he was coming in WandaVision or Agatha all along, but it was really well written and actually interesting and served the plot, then people would have liked it. But the fact that you're bringing him in now, again, I haven't watched the episodes, so maybe it delves into it a lot better than what the clips I have seen from him and the show. That it's entirely possible, yes. So feel free to yell at me in the comments, but just the vibe I'm getting, it's like Ryan Coogler was like, okay, let's go out of our way to subvert the expectations, and it feels like it kind of blew up in their face a little bit. So yeah, it just feels weird and awkward to me.
Yeah, it is a little bit feels like it was tacked on in a way that I don't know, but like look, I haven't been able to really I feel like I didn't experience the show properly because I've sort of skipped around a little bit and obviously had some things spoiled for me along the way, which is fine, doing the show here. But what I will say is Mephisto might be a few years, too late to the MCU. Although the show was filmed quite a long time ago, so I mean that kind of explains it. Maybe we had news or rumors that Sacha Baron Cohen was going to be playing Mephisto a long time ago, so it lines up with when the show was originally being filmed. As far as like when we're gonna next see Mephisto or Riri Williams' character, Ironheart, he did. Ryan Coogler did say, "I don't know jack shit. It all depends on what Kevin wants to do next." Essentially, Kevin Feige. So I guess it will come down to Kevin Feige's decisions as to where he wants to see these two characters come up next, which we'll have to, I guess, just sit on that. Maybe it's Black Panther 3, maybe it's a different project. So I for one don't know anything about it. You guys let us know in the comments what you think about that. So with that, John, let's dive into. Now that Ironheart has come out, it was essentially the last project in MCU's, you could say, much maligned, uneven, just mediocre by some standards, and really just overall a mixed bag that was Phase 5. So Ironheart wraps up Phase 5. So now that Phase 5 is over, John, I figured let's take a quick gander, shall we? There were 15 total projects, including, let me see if you can count it correctly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 movies and 9 TV shows making up all of Phase 5, including, of course, the introduction of Deadpool and Wolverine into the MCU, the Hugh Jackman Wolverine at least. We had the last of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which was the last of the trilogies from the phases 1 through 3 or 1 through 4 to come to a close. And then of course you had a lot of spin-offs, really. Loki, Act All Along, Echo, Ant-Man is another one, finished this trilogy. The Marvels obviously did not do very well. Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, that's a show which doesn't even necessarily take place in the MCU continuity, even though originally it was supposed to. Captain America 4, Brave New World, I mean, that was very uneven, although it's still one of the highest grossing movies of 2025 so far. Thunderbolts, superior movie to Captain America 4, I think, but ultimately it made less money. It didn't even break even. Ironheart we were talking about just minutes ago, of how maybe Mephisto is a little too late to the party. They dropped all of Echo at one time. Like, they dropped Ironheart in 2 batches. The Marvels was like the first official MCU flop. Secret Invasion was so bad, people want to, the MCU fans now officially want to, wipe that from their own memory, how bad it literally killed Nick Fury's character. Like, thematically, just like, no, they're like, oh my God, Nick Fury went from being one of the most interesting parts of the MCU to Secret Invasion. And Agatha All Along was well watched, but who's still watching What If? Like, I don't know if anybody's watching What If or how many people are. And I mean, Daredevil Born Again, we talked about, like, the viewership was lower than Agatha All Along. So, John, overall, when you look at Phase 5 as a whole, what is your reaction? And then again, do you think it does a good job to set up Phase 6?
It's sad. It's very sad. As someone who went to go see the first Iron Man with my dad, because we saw like this superhero thing, like, oh, what's this? This looks cool. Let's go see a movie. Like, that's back when, we used to do, oh, this thing seems interesting. Let's go see this. And same year, like, my dad watched, he watched the Bill Bixby show of Incredible Hulk. So we went to go see that together too. So, and I love both. And it's just like, seeing what it is now is just sad. Like, again, I haven't seen all of these, so I can't judge on all of them. I heard nothing but terrible things about Quantumania. I heard nothing but terrible things about Secret Invasion, which is even sadder because apparently it's a very good comic book arc and it lets it down. Loki, I heard mixed things. Like, they said it was not as good as season 1, but still like okay for the most part. Ke Huy Quan, I heard, was like the all-star of that season. Jonathan Majors was there. And Marvels, I heard nothing but terrible things except for Iman Vellani, who had to have back surgery for carrying that entire goddamn movie. You're not wrong. What If, I heard, like, again, like you said, who the fuck is still watching the show? Because, like, the first season was like fine, but then it like kept going, and we're like, oh, okay. Echo, I did hear some good things about Echo. I will say
it's again, I feel like Ironheart and Echo got the short end of the stick in many ways, because they were actually
female-led shows. Marvel, are you trying
kind
to
of good? Yeah.
And then Deadpool and Wolverine, obviously, with the fucking, Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine, completely
the only
negating
billion-dollar
the point of
movie.
Logan.
The only billion-dollar movie in this phase out of the 6.
Yep.
Guardians.
I forgot. Guardians of the Galaxy. That was actually, I watched that. That was good,
that's the best thing in all of this.
It was the
Phase
weakest
5
of the trilogy, though. It was
it tells you something that if going off of your opinion, the weakest of the trilogy
is still very good.
Is the best movie in Phase 5.
Yeah,
or the best anything in Phase 5.
Yeah, so Deadpool and Wolverine is just a crowd pleaser of like, oh, they're bringing back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, bringing back Evans's Johnny Storm. They're bringing back they're bringing back Wesley Snipes. They're bringing back Jennifer Garner. It's like, and it's all tied together through a thinly veiled plot that is just one giant middle finger to what Logan represents.
Yep.
Because it was made just a couple years too early when Hugh Jackman wanted to like come back and be with Ryan Reynolds one last time. So I know even some big naysayers from friends of mine said like the movie was okay. I'm just like, I just read the plot synopsis, and I know that's not the same thing as watching the movie. It just sounds bad. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Emma Corrin, they are a very good actor. So I cannot wait for them for future projects. But like, I feel like from what little I saw of her, very bland. Agatha All Along. Agatha All Along was one of those movies that or movies was one of those
TV
shows that kind of
shows.
like had like a quiet release. It's like nobody kind
Mm-hmm.
of really expected it all that much, and I heard like decently positive things about it. And then, sorry, I gotta look around my camera. What's the? Oh, it's What If. Okay, nobody cares about that. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man slaps. Honestly, out of everything I've seen here, which is two things,
Yep.
it's definitely the best. Here's the thing. I was the most here's the thing. I was like apparently one of the few people that was like actually excited for this show, and I still but I still had some reservations about it, and I was still blown away. I was surprised with how good it was because it understands Spider-Man and Coleman
Mm-hmm.
Domingo as Norman Osborn. Please, okay, Marvel, I am saying this right fucking now. I don't care if this is an alternate universe. Bring Coleman Domingo is for Norman Osborn. I know I literally just said yesterday's episode, race swapping don't give sloppy seconds, but when you're this good, this is just one of the cases of like, don't go out of your way to do a race swapping thing. Do it just because they are that good. And Coleman Domingo as Norman Osborn would be fantastic in live action. And remember, I have said many a times, like, don't do race swapping for the sake of race swapping. Do it because the actor is just that good. Look at Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. Despite the fact that Sir Gary Oldman has played this character, I still think Jeffrey Wright is better. Like, that is saying something because Gary Oldman was in The Dark Knight. Oh my God, amazing movie, amazing Commissioner Gordon, amazing actor. I still think Jeffrey Wright nailed it even more so as the character, as an actor. And he's just that good. And he just so happens to be black. So it's like he's just that good. And Coleman Domingo, bring him. I don't know how they're gonna make it work. I don't know what they're gonna do. Just bring this man in for Norman Osborn. Don't bring him in for Blade or some shit like that. Bring him in for Norman Osborn in live action, please, for the love of God. He was so friggin' good in that show.
Yeah, and you know what? Right now he's in that upcoming movie, The Running Man, right? So I loved him in that trailer. He's
putting on his best Steve Harvey impression, which I'm excited for.
It's so good.
It's so like
so good.
I said this: if they ever plan to do a Running Man remake, they need to get Steve Harvey to be the new host because Richard Dawson, who hosted Family Feud back in the day, was the host in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. So I'm like, oh, that would be a cool full circle moment. Obviously, they didn't go with that, which is fine. Steve Harvey isn't really an actor, but I feel like the vibe Coleman Domingo is giving off, he's like sort of a more exaggerated Steve Harvey, and I'm like, I see what you're doing. Like, it still works, so I'll give you a pat on the back for that. I'm still excited for the movie. It's not like, oh my God, that, but that's great. But yeah, this Phase 5 is just,
all I will say is this: like, Phase 5, if there was one theme throughout Phase 5, is like thematically speaking. I mean, some people might say there is no theme to this Phase 5. It's quite kind of a splattering of every thing of sorts. But I think the one big theme of Phase 5 is you're getting secondary, tertiary characters, like spin-offs of spin-offs. Like Agatha All Along was in WandaVision, so it's a spin-off of WandaVision, which itself was a spin-off of Avengers Endgame, in one of the many storylines it's set up. Loki season 2 is a spin-off, it's a sequel to Loki season 1, which is a spin-off of the events of Avengers Endgame. And then we got a lot of new characters like in the MCU that we were excited to see finally join the MCU. Like we got to see Wolverine come in, the Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. We got to see Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool join in. We have of course seen Daredevil and Kingpin and that whole Street universe officially join the MCU in a more complete capacity. But then they also had Thunderbolts, which is a movie that was entirely based around a set of characters that were all villains or secondary, tertiary characters in other previous Marvel movies or TV shows. So a lot of like lesser knowns or unknowns, even the Marvels. One of the reasons why people think that flopped is because people were expecting a Captain Marvel sequel and not to have an ensemble movie where like Photon and Miss Marvel, which I love Miss Marvel, the TV show on Disney Plus, but not a lot of people saw that. And I mean, I know a lot of people saw WandaVision, but still not as many people as that went to see Captain Marvel to the tune of $1 billion. So outside of Captain Marvel, people didn't really know about those other two characters as much, and the movie made it very much seem like you kind of were expected to know them. They didn't really do a good job of reintroducing them in the movie, which I think is something Kevin Feige obviously learned his lesson on. But then it was applied in a way that was felt really clunky, with over doing the exposition in Captain America: Brave New World to explain all the backstory behind the how Thunderbolt Ross and just the Red Hulk, and how all of that plays into the story of basically what felt like a sequel to the Hulk without the Hulk, except they just jammed in or rammed in Anthony Mackie's Captain America, which I think honestly, quite frankly, that character should have gotten a proper movie that was properly about Captain America, not a Captain America movie that just got rammed into a Hulk sequel, where like, where's Bruce Banner and all that stuff, right? Ironheart, another spiritually spun off of a derivative character of Iron Man. What if like anthology series that are literally just derivatives of the actual things we have seen? Echo was a spin-off of Hawkeye, which was a spin-off of Avengers Endgame, and then it ties remotely into the Daredevil world. Then your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, not even a part of the timeline of the MCU. Secret Invasion had probably the worst superhero character ever introduced in the MCU. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was a class of this Phase 5, and quite frankly, there's a mile between Guardians of the Galaxy and the rest of the projects here. Even Thunderbolts, I think, was a ways off of how good Guardians was. Like, you watch Guardians and you watch Thunderbolts, and I feel like by comparison, Guardians looks like an Oscar caliber movie. And Quantumania, of course, like that movie killed Kang as the potential, and there were other factors, but like Quantumania being, not very good did not help the fact that, basically Kang loses to Ant-Man and then loses to Loki, like, of course, and then of course with what happened with Jonathan Majors, all of that, like Phase 5, but outside of a few different highlights, I think is largely probably one phase that Marvel would really like to forget. And I'm glad that they're kicking off Phase 6 with Fantastic Four, because holy hell, they need a reset, John. And that reset, though, might include a few other characters that we've been mulling over for a while, or Marvel has at least. Nova and Strange Academy. Remember those ideas were in the works for a long time. They paused their plans on it earlier this year, but a new report suggests that the studio might now be looking at potentially bringing those back off the shelf, and then they're just trying to figure out whether they want to do a Nova movie or a TV show. And then the same, what do they want to do with Strange Academy? Do they want to make it a movie or a TV show? This comes to us from Daniel Rickman, the inside one of the insiders, the scoopers out in Hollywood, saying Marvel Studios is trying to decide whether Nova and Strange Academy should be developed as a TV show or a set of movies, or at least a movie. John, based on this report, again, Daniel Rickman, hit or miss, and then just the idea of finally seeing Nova in the MCU. They've been teasing him since the very first Guardians movie, and the Strange Academy has been like sort of on and off in the works since Doctor Strange 2 in Multiverse of Madness. So do you want to see either of these things come to life? And if so, would you prefer them as TV shows or movies?
I think personally, since I'm just gonna say this, Nova Corps is literally a ripoff of Green Lantern. So it's like, don't make that a show, because Lanterns is already a show and it would be coming out after the fact, and Nova Corps could be seen as a ripoff of Lanterns already. So try to make that a movies to differentiate. And plus it could show DC like, hey, do Green Lanterns as a movie, because hey, it worked well for Nova, so it could work. I think it would work better for all sides. Strange Academy, I assume it's Doctor Strange related. It's the Tibetan
Yeah, they have to like basically make new visitors or train up new visitors because Wanda killed them all. So
I would say that works better as a TV show. I don't know what
think
Terror
so too.
Inc. is, but the vibe I get, that sounds like more of a TV show. So I would say make Nova a movie, because it's
Mhm.
a weirder character, but like I feel like you can make that work.
Also, there's multiple iterations of Nova. So I think the
Yeah.
reports were they were trying to maybe do like kind of like a Scott Lang, a Hank Pym sort of situation where they would bring like two generations of Novas together. Almost like what Lanterns is doing too, right? Like with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. So it would make sense. I think that's probably the way to go. Honestly, yes, Strange Academy probably makes more sense as a TV show, and Nova makes more sense as a movie. Even though originally I think Nova was being developed as a TV show as well. But with that, Dojon, we do have one trailer to discuss. It's a teaser trailer for The Eyes of Wakanda, taking us back to the jaw-dropping world of Black Panther. I, for one, I think don't mind the animation style. This is only a 30-second sneak peek, so they don't give us a whole hell of a lot. And I think this is meant to be pretty much in line with the MCU's timeline. Like, I don't think this is meant to be like an Elseworlds sort of, well, the Marvel equivalent of an Elseworlds story. But you saw this. What did you think about it? I mean, it looks good. I mean, visually, it looks nice. Wakanda always looks beautiful. But what did you think about this 30-second teaser to The Eyes of Wakanda?
In the words of Superman in Justice League, not impressed. Looks kind of bland in all honesty. Like the premise is good, but like the vibe I'm getting, like the animation style just looks really ugly. Again,
Looks like Star Wars Rebels almost.
That's honestly insulting to Rebels. Star Wars Rebels is good. Like, and the animation isn't too bad because it's like got that Clone Wars vibe.
Yeah.
It's just okay, like here's the thing I don't understand about Disney's like Marvel's animation stuff under like this is Disney, literally the forerunner of fucking animation. Like literally, we would not have animation on theatrical film if it was not for Disney, pretty much. Yet how the fuck does all of their animation for at least Marvel look like hot garbage? Like What If looks like shit. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, I love that show. The animation is easily the worst part of it because it's like because what it was supposed to be the Ditko style in 2D animation, but 3D is cheaper mainly because 3D artists don't have rights, union rights like 2D artists do. That's why they phased out 2D animation because they don't have to pay their artists as much. Fun fact. So they had to switch it to 3D animation, and it looks worse because they're like trying to do that 2D style, and it just like didn't work. It's not hard. It's Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is definitely one of the better ones because it like the style isn't like the worst thing ever, but it's not great. This like I don't mind like exaggerated like caricatures, but here it just looks ugly and it looks like not good, but like the premise is interesting. So like I don't know if I'll watch this show. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but it's just like it falls into the pocket of a very good idea for a show with a lot of promise that is unfortunately burdened by what looks like very terrible animation, which is sad because again, this is coming from Disney where they're like your animation should be automatically the best. Yet for Marvel, for Star Wars, like minus Clone Wars and Rebels, for Pixar, it all looks terrible. Like guys, you should not have terrible animation if you're this. I understand, like you gotta like pinch pennies, cut things. I understand it's still a business, but it's like, how much money did Disney fucking make last year? They still made like what, like $2 billion? Like probably more than that, probably
more,
billions upon billions. Like I think you guys can afford a little bit more money to your animation department, considering you are the forefront of why we have film in a theatrical setting. So it's like, come on. But it's a shame because it's like it's a fucking awesome, like the history of Wakanda through
the premise is really fantastic.
It's
yeah,
fucking really cool. That it reminds
it's a
me
4-episode miniseries, essentially
like,
limited series.
It's straight to the point, and it kind of reminds me of Killer of Killers a little bit,
Mhm.
where it's like you're going through like you have
Different
the Vikings,
time periods,
the time periods, this samurai and World War II. Like it's giving that vibe, and that's really cool. But it's just like I'm looking at this, I'm like, This, to quote Weasel, motherfucker, you are hard to look at. Oh.
I mean, look,
maybe I'll watch. I'm intrigued with the premise, so like maybe I'll watch it for that. But like,
yeah, and I was gonna just say, look, here's the thing: it doesn't look like anything revolutionary from an animation standpoint. It's also not offensive to me; like it's not like visually offensive in any way.
no, it's not bad. It's just like I feel like
So
you should be better. In the
yeah,
words of Iron
no,
Man, you
yeah,
should be better.
exactly. No, I hear you on that. It's also like the limitations of you doing this as a TV show for Disney Plus, where clearly that you could tell that they're cutting their budgets. But what I was gonna say is, as long as the story is good, a lot of people will overlook the animation style if the story is good. So that's where I'm hoping that it has its redemption point. So hopefully it's good. And it's only 4 episodes, so like they don't have a huge sample size to work with here. So hopefully we'll get to see it when it comes out on August 27th, and we'll probably review it on the show. At least Liz will talk about it. So just tune in for that in August. But right now, John, I want to wrap up the MCU news with a little bit of a fun note here, kind of like almost a quick hit kind of a story. This was posted by Blu-ray Angel. They're like, my friend group in July 2025. You got Superman in there. You got the full Fantastic Four team, Herbie, and then of course, you got a little T-Rex on the side, on the right side of the image. I do love that GIF. Or that is a perfect GIF. I could use some fries right now, actually, if I'm being honest. Great VFX work. John, is this your friend group in 2025 or in July 2025?
Hopefully, maybe. I'd like to think so, but I don't think I'm gonna be seeing any. I'm not seeing Jurassic World. I'm gonna be seeing.
I don't know.
I'm gonna be seeing, Superman and Fantastic Four with my parents. That's how much of a loser I am. So,
I personally will probably check out Jurassic World eventually, probably by myself, because I can't convince anybody else to go see that with me. You know what? And I don't blame them. But Jurassic World is not looking good. It's got, what was it, a B cinema score we talked about the other day. Superman, seeing it early. You and I both are seeing it on Tuesday. And then, of course, Fantastic Four, I'm sure we're both going to go. Like you said, we're both going to go see that one. So I know Liz is going to be watching all 3 of them. So we'll get her opinion on just how good or bad Jurassic World indeed is or was. Like, we'll just have to wait and find out what she says next week on the show. But in the meantime, let's get back to talking about some DC news, shall we? Because that was all the Marvel stuff we had. Now we're going to switch over and talk about some DC. And as we've been doing for a while, we like to spend the first half of the show talking about the world of Hollywood news, but also getting into some Superman news, because Superman is part of Hollywood, and there's so much Superman news every day on the show right now that we can't just put it all in DCU Daily. Of course, the whole show is DCU Daily, but just the DC focus segment, can't handle all of Superman's the marketing, so we got to split it up. So here we go. The very first thing, John, there's a new poster drop. This comes to us from the Superman Museum account, saying Superman is ready to soar, and this brand new poster for Superman is everything. Bold, hopeful, iconic. The countdown is on. Superman hits theaters July 11th. Are you ready? Are you ready, John, to believe again? Take a gander at this poster.
It reminds me of the Dark Knight Rises poster.
I can see it with like how the buildings shape
the buildings and like the hero at the center of it. It gives me that vibe.
I like how there's a line being dragged out in motion blur from his bulge in the middle of his 2 legs. You notice that? That's the awkward part of the design.
I don't mind.
This is the only part that
a little bit weird, but outside.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Although the clouds shape
like
the
his
S.
legs look too big.
Yeah,
like they look too long, and it's a little awkward. But outside of that, it's pretty good.
Yeah, but I do like how the clouds shape the S in the background. That's an underrated.
I just noticed that. Holy shit! I just noticed that.
Yeah. Nice. I was like, otherwise that'd be like a missing piece. I love this poster. This is class. This is great. And I'm probably gonna steal this one of the thumbnails. But anyway, let's keep on going here, shall we? We've got a new Superman-centric promo for the movie. This features a lot more shots of Kal-El, Clark Kent, Superman, however you know him, including a couple of shots that we have seen other parts of them. So maybe extensions of the shot. This is like a Russian trailer. The voiceover for this was pretty epic, very Russian sounding. But yeah, John, not a ton of new footage, but the footage that we do see looks again is as good as anything that we have seen. So
Looking good.
I'm excited to see it. Yeah, look up, as they say with Superman. So let's get into some Daily Planet stuff, though, shall we? Because as I've been mentioning recently, they've got this Daily Planet newsletter that's like a broadcast channel on Instagram. So if you are subscribed to the Superman account, or if you're following the Superman account, you can subscribe to the broadcast channel. It's free, and they will like send you these like updates every other day, from the Daily Planet. So whether it's an article or something like this. Apparently, the Daily Planet has like a user submission thing called Overheard Metropolis. And the latest submission was from a guy at a music shop saying, "My barber knows this guy who says they saw Superman at a show for the Mighty Crabjoys. We might not know what his intentions are for us, but at least we know he's got good taste in music." The other guy at the music shop, though, says, "Good music? Are you kidding? The Mighty Crabjoys suck." Um, the Mighty Crabjoys aside, the fact that they're talking about we maybe we don't know what his intentions are for us, but at least we know he's got good taste in music. Do you think that implies that Superman will be questioned by the people? Like who is he really aligned with? Like, because I mean, we kind of get a hint of that with the Secretary of Defense looking into his actions in one of the trailers. But it seems like that goes all the way down to the everyman in Metropolis. They're questioning whether Superman is a good guy or not.
Yeah, I like these little things. Like I like the other one where it's like I bet he puts cats in trees to
to take them down after. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I love that one. That was great.
That was funny. But yeah, this is
Oh
pretty
my
good. I
God.
like this.
Yeah, I do. I love this too. This is great. All right, let's keep going because there are actually a couple more that I pulled. This next one, let me see this. So this is the photo of obviously Superman with one of the robots in the fortress. I don't know how the Daily Planet gets this photo. The logic behind that does not.
Jimmy
logic
Olsen
for me.
is just
Apparently,
he's a very good photographer.
But the post with this image read, "Breaking news: Superman mourns a fallen machine. But what about humanity? Speculation surrounding the Cape Crusaders' priorities arise." So very interesting stuff. I mean, again, I doubt that this is going to play out anything like this in the movie, but love to see it. There was one more thing from the Daily Planet. They actually put out a crossword puzzle, John, and this accompanied some text saying, "Hint: this week's super crossword is super fun. Enjoy, Metropolis." So if you zoom into this is what it says: across billion-dollar corporation.
Zoom into this.
famous words that I once said. But yeah, it says a billion-dollar corporation that started as a pesticides manufacturer. So that's number one. What would that be? So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10. Pesticides manufacturer, billion-dollar corporation. I wonder what that is, John. Maybe we should fill this out and then maybe we'll get some good answers. Delicious sandwich cookies with a cream filling, number 2. Is that Chocos? That's got to be Chocos, right?
Hold on, I can't see yeah, that's definitely, we are we gonna fill this out now? Delicious sandwich, yeah, that's Chocos. Superhero who wears an emerald power in Green Lantern.
Big Belly Burger
organization founded by Garrison Slate. Research, I don't know that one. The Meteors
of the baseball team.
This rambunctious lovable superdog, Crypto. Hero known for genius level intellect and gymnastic ability. That's probably Mr. Terrific.
Mr. Terrific. Yeah.
First name of renowned Daily Planet reporter Lois. This immortal superhero is named after a bird. Hawkgirl, I would assume.
Yeah. The burger restaurant founded in Coast City, later becoming a chain expanding to both Metropolis and Gotham City. That is Big Belly Burger. So there you
Coast City, that is the home of Hal Jordan, which got nuked in the comics, and that led him to becoming Parallax. So good times.
I guess we'll find out if that happened in this universe. So, but interesting. Let's see if you guys can fill this crossword out. I mean, are we right with our answers? You let us know. Anyway, move on to the next thing, John. We have some really cool fan art from Job Huts. Remember, he did the fan art for Supergirl that we actually went over quite a few times before, which with Millie Alcock, like a really good probably the best fan art of Millie Alcock Supergirl we've seen to date. And now he's sort of taken one of her Instagram photos and combined it with more Supergirl fan art while she's standing next to, of course, Superman, which That is
I
from
love
one of
it.
the posters, and then Crypto in the air and the Metropolis skyline in the
That
background.
looks really good. I really, really like that.
Talk about the
looks
super
so
family,
good.
man. It's all there.
Super family.
And then you even kind of put it into one of the fictional front pages of the Daily Planet. Kit Wonders.
I spent the night with Superman.
Sun
Yeah,
City.
that classic. Yeah.
Train safe from disaster. Ooh, that's kind of nice. You actually can kind of tell that David Cornswell Superman. The super trio they're called: Superman, Supergirl, and Crypto. I like it. I like it very much so. All right, moving on to the next thing, shall we? Ooh, yeah. Let me go through this one here. So this is the clip, the infamous clip where James Gunn is talking to the Real Rejects, and he talks about how he, all the ways in which he tried to make Superman very relatable, and part of it was just his own experience with online criticism, because Superman in the movie struggles with online criticism, and this is where, of course, we got the whole thing about sometimes you're gonna pull back and realize that maybe it's just a 12-year-old boy from India, just telling me all these things. And so I gotta be like, just let it go, man. And people obviously blew that out of proportion. Oh my God, James Gunn is racist and stuff. I'm like, the man could have said any country, like any age, could have said I don't know, like a 15-year-old. That actually sounds weird. 11-year-old girl from, I don't know, Denmark. Not likely to say that, but I'm just saying, would it matter? I don't think it was intentional, but this is the clip. If you guys haven't seen it, then you guys can check it out on the Real Rejects account. I don't think there's much else to be said about this, John. I know you're already tired of this conversation, so
yeah, it's just
yeah.
Watch D's more like D's nuts of this fucking conversation.
Speaking of D's nuts, look at James Gunn trying to do his best to act out the fact that he loves Love Island and Love Island UK, because apparently they're doing a bit of a crossover there where they're gonna have a special Superman themed challenge on the next episode of Love Island. So
Love
you
Island,
can tune in.
Love Island.
And James Gunn is like, I gotta fan myself. I love this show so much. It's no lie. I mean, it's kind of hilarious because you can tell that he's reading off a prompter and
just like
doing his best, doing his best to pretend that he likes the show or knows a thing or two about it. It's kind of hilarious
because we've seen a thing or two. We are James Gunn. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. Anyway,
yeah. There you go. All right, moving on to the next thing, shall we? There was another new promo out there. Let's go. A bunch of more new shots. A new shots of the T-sphere. You see more of the city splitting apart. I do wonder if this has something to do with Metamorpho's powers, considering the colors that we're seeing here. But yeah, I mean, this trailer is literally just telling us, let's go. The wait is over. Like, the movie's here. So they're probably going to be using this more and more next week when the movie's out. This is linked to Fandango. So, John, I mean, there's a couple. Look at that shot towards the end. The ending of that whole spinning shot. That we haven't seen that before. So I'm liking it, John. This is, again, more new footage that we haven't seen yet. Extended shots. And that shot, oh my God, that is my favorite shot of the movie already. Superman and Crypto on the moon. It looks so cute. It looks so cute. Like, I need it now. I need it now, John. I need it now. Give it to me now. Put it in my mouth. Inject it into my vein. Exactly. Oh, God, this is fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, Nicholas Hoult doing a great job with Lex Luthor, John. But he recently mentioned in one of the many interviews that he's done with the press junket and the world tour of Superman that he would like to see his Lex Luthor team up with Joker in the future DCU film. So he said one of the comics I read there was a link up between Lex and Joker. The combination of these two together was really fun to read. So perhaps if you're lucky and get to keep making movies, that's something I would like to see. I mean, hey, they were sort of hinting at that with if Zack Snyder got a chance to do more movies for the DCEU. Jesse Eisenberg's Joker might have crossed paths with Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor might have crossed paths with Jared Leto's Joker, John. But it looks like that wasn't the last time we might have, had the intention to do that. Would you like to see Lex Luthor, like the Nicholas Hoult version, cross paths with the Joker that might be haunting whoever becomes the Batman in the DCU?
Could be interesting.
I wouldn't mind seeing it. I think it would be nice. It would be fun to see it. It's just a matter of, again, the story. Like, because I know that it with what was it with the DCEU, what they were trying to do is essentially work their way towards like an injustice society sort of a thing, right? Or like or the Legion of Doom. What were they trying to work for? Was it Legion of Doom or Injustice
Legion
Society?
of Doom and Justice League and
Yeah.
Justice Gang. It's those.
Something to that effect. Anyway. Well, I mean, hey, that's all the Superman stuff we've got for you guys for now, because we will have more Superman later when we get into the DCU Daily proper, and then we, of course, will give you our reasons for why we think Superman might fail versus why it might succeed. But until then, let us know in the comments down below what you thought about all of those Superman collaborations, all the different social media, integrations and activations, as they call them in the industry. Are you getting more and more excited for the movie? Because I know we are. John and I are really hyped. We have unrealistic expectations for this movie. So what about you guys? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, we have to talk about now, John, we have a new director for James Bond. And so finally, now that Denis Villeneuve has taken charge, we're thinking about who's going to play Bond. But before we get to that, of course, we know that Denis Villeneuve has wanted to direct like a James Bond movie for a long time. He's a huge fan of the franchise. He's been chasing James Bond for a long time, for years. It's a dream job for him. And he said that directing a James Bond movie would be pure cinematic joy. So you could tell that the man loves the idea of doing this. We know that he was probably not the first pick because they had Alfonso Cuarón, I think, and there was like one other name that was in the running.
Nolan. How can you forget Christopher?
Sorry, Christopher Nolan.
Sir, Christopher Nolan.
Sir Christopher Nolan. It's been a long day, John. It's been a long day. Sir Christopher Nolan. But the question becomes, as they point out in this article in the conversation, John, now that Denis Villeneuve is set to helm the next James Bond movie, who will be what will be his 007? What would it look like? What would it feel like? And then for us today, more specifically, like let's forget about, for the moment, what will his 007 be like? Because we can do you one better. John, you picked out a bunch of names. So let's talk about who could be Denis Villeneuve's 007. And through that, we can maybe have a better idea of what kind of a 007 we might be going for. So as we usually do with these fan castings, I'm going to let you start off with the first name, and then we'll get into the conversation. I know we have 7 names to get through today, so quite a few options. If you guys are watching live, drop your suggestions in the chat. And if you're watching after the fact, then get in the comments down below and let us know if you agree with the picks and if you have any other names in mind. But John, as always, let's kick things off with the very first name. And then if you have anything else to add to what I just said, go on ahead. Let's talk about James Bond.
So just fair warning, these are, for the most part, names that attribute to what Amazon wants for the character. They want someone who is under the age of 30. Now, a couple of these are over the age of 30. I picked, I think, 4 that were under the age and then 2 that were over the age of 30, but like still kind of in that ballpark. I know Dan picked a name, but for the ones I picked, because that's what they want. So it's like you're not going to see Henry Cavill or Aaron Taylor Johnson on this list. I'm sorry. Those are the obvious ones and probably the ones I would want the most. But these are the ones I look at them. I quickly look at their IMDb page. So I'm not going to have a ton to say about all these guys, but I just look at them and I'm like, I think they have the vibe. So, but first one I have is the one I have seen the most of, and that's Paul Mescal. I've actually seen Gladiator 2. I think I watched.
He was great in that.
A couple things with him, but he has the charisma, he has the acting ability, and he has the look. I think he is the closest in terms of this, in terms of the character. Like, he can clearly do action. I mean, he worked with someone as illustrious as Sir Ridley Scott, so there is that as well. So he knows. I mean, he's worked with plenty of great actors around him. He worked with a great director. So, and he's on the up and up to be a really rising star. So I think Amazon should take that star and get that. But I understand Paul Mescal is probably not interested in James, if I were to take a guess. But I think he has this out of the entire list. He is probably my favorite, because I think maybe fix his teeth a little bit, but I think he nails pretty much almost every aspect. There you go. Like make sure you know close that British gap a little bit. So he's 29, so he's
Mhm,
right where they want him,
mhm,
and I think he would be a very good choice. Maybe not like Henry Cavill levels of handsome, but I think he's a pretty good looking guy.
mhm.
But I think he's like from what I saw in Gladiator 2, I think he was excellent. And I think he has that like leading man charisma that is needed for Bond. So yeah, I think Paul Mescal should definitely be one of the top choices for the character instead of Tom Holland. But hey, he is going to be a Beatle along with one of their other picks in Harris Dickinson. So there's
Yeah.
that too.
All right. Well, let's keep the ball rolling. And Paul Mescal, I think, is a great pick to start off with. You're setting the
Mhm.
bar pretty high, as is again not having like Aaron Taylor Johnson in there, or Henry Cavill, like some of the more popular choices.
Yes,
So yeah, let's
but he's
go.
probably the most famous out of all of these. The next one
True.
I have, he is a franchise runner because he is going to be the next He-Man, and that's Nicholas. And I hope I'm pronouncing this Galatzine. He's
Let me see if I can.
30.
Yeah, Nicholas
He's
Galitzine. Yeah.
right on the cusp of what they want. And the thing is, this dude has a picturesque face. He's probably the best looking out of all of these guys in terms of like Paul Mescal. If like we're talking acting ability, he definitely has it. I would say Galatzine has he has that like square jawline. He's like he bulked up for fucking He-Man,
Masters of the
obviously.
Universe. Yeah.
And I think he's done some good stuff in the past, and I think he can work with. I think he has like a good picturesque look to him, and I think
Mhm.
it like if you want like that draw of like that handsome guy, I think Galatzine is where you're at. It's just a shame that like his He-Man movie is probably gonna stink. But
I mean, it's all. I will say though, like you kind of want James Bond to have a bit of an edge to him. No, like I don't
yeah,
know if you're going for. I don't think Denis Villeneuve is going for Roger Moore. He's probably going more for Sean Connery, if anything. And
yeah,
I don't know if Nicholas Galtazine could play that. That would be my only like
exactly. No, it's
downside
just like
for
I
this.
was
Yeah.
scraping the bottom of the shit barrel here. All right. So I don't really have like I mean, I'm just saying he has the look. He has like a very picturesque look, but I wouldn't say he's like if we're talking Mezcal versus this guy, Mezcal is easily the winner. But
Mhm.
he's kind of got that like picturesque, like he has like the look again that
Yeah.
jawline, those like everything like
I don't know what it is. I feel like he can play a better Blofeld. He can be a good Bond villain, maybe not
no, I
Bond.
can't see it. No, I get like Blofeld. Like the thing is, a lot of the Blofelds were just way too campy. Like the best ones are either the ones you never saw or like Telly Savalas. Telly Savalas was probably the best Blofeld we ever got. And the thing is, like you're up against like Telly Savalas and Donald Pleasance and Christoph Waltz. Like, no way, I can't see that dude with that higher management. Definitely not. But he
Yeah.
could probably pull it off. But like you can't get a worse pick than Tom fucking Holland. And I like Tom Holland,
I
but like
can't I don't believe he's actually on that short list, man. I just don't understand. I
honestly,
don't
he
get
did
it.
pitch it to them. But I'm just saying, like he probably
Yeah.
has the look, and
Yeah.
he could probably act. Like it's
He could
he could
probably
probably do
act.
it.
Yeah, probably. He's only done
Eh,
like 4 Spider-Man movies anyway.
no. I
Um
mean, like
Oh,
Galat.
Nicholas Galazine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, he did
Was
that
it
movie
Galax?
with
I think I misspelled his name in
yeah,
the
it's no, no, no. I
list.
think you spelled it right, but I think it's pronounced Galtazine or
I
Galazine.
think
Anyway, whatever.
Galatzine, whatever.
He did that movie with Anne Hathaway. He's doing Masters of the Universe. So he's gonna have some name power, like some recognition. So
Yeah.
anyway, let's keep going.
We'll
We got
see.
5 more guys to get through
I'm
here.
sure he can
Yeah.
do the role fine. The next one I have is Corey Milcreast. Now, the biggest claim to fame is a very British thing. He was in the Bridgerton spinoff Queen
Mhm.
Charlotte. He doesn't have a ton to his name. He only has like maybe 5 other credits. So this guy's a pretty much an unknown. But I mean, he was in this other very British thing, even though the Queen Charlotte part is not very historically accurate, but it's fine. But I think again, he's kind of in this like kind of soap opera-y stuff, but
Mhm.
I think he can make it work. Again, he's got a good look to him. He's got I did catch him when my parents were or when my mom was watching. My dad definitely doesn't watch his shit. When my mom was watching it, I did catch a couple scenes here and there, and yeah, it seems like he could do a good job. But yeah, again, I was like, when I was looking through these guys, I was like, what's noticeable? And I think, look, and I think that credit like gives him something. So that's what I was
Yeah.
like kind of aiming for. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think he could be a good choice.
Could be. I'm not entirely convinced, but I mean, hey, you never know. Like sometimes the least likely, options turn out to be the best
But like
ones.
I
So.
was like looking for like maybe they're trying to get like someone who won't cost a lot of money, and so they want someone who's
But
like
dude,
very unknown.
it's Amazon. They got money to burn. I
Yeah,
don't
but
think that's
like
gonna
come
be a
on, like
problem.
they will pinch pennies whenever they
I
can. So
yeah. I don't know. This is James Bond. This is literally the crown jewel of what they've got as IP. So I don't think they're gonna pinch pennies here. But I understand your concern. I mean, let's keep going though. We again, I think Paul Mescal so far is probably the best pick out of the names we've seen.
the next guy, and by the way, Corey Milcreast is 27, so he is the youngest guy on this list.
Gotcha.
So yeah, the next one is Connor Swindells. Definitely has the height. This dude's tall, so if you're looking for height, this dude has it.
Are you listening, Liz? Yeah.
But he's mainly known for like more comedic stuff. So if they
Mhm.
are going in for more of that, like
A
Roger
Roger
Moore, Pierce
Moore.
Brosnan
Yeah.
connection, yes, but he was also in the very well received Rogue Heroes miniseries.
Mhm.
So, and I heard nothing but great things about this. So it's like
Me too.
that's
Yeah, yeah.
definitely something.
Was that an Apple?
I think it was on one of the I think it might have been on BritBox or something like that. And then he was
I thought
also in
Apple
Sex
got the rights.
Education
Okay. Yeah.
as well. There you go. You got your doctor there. And I've heard nothing but great things about Sex Education. So, and I think he's big. He's definitely got like kind of like an out there look to him,
Mhm.
but with a full head of hair and all that, and he kind of has like an edginess to him that could really make Bond work. And I've heard good things about the stuff he's in. So I think this would be another good choice for the role. I think outside of the ones we've seen, I would say this is probably the second best. I would say Paul Mescal is probably the best. I would say this guy's probably the second best from what I have seen of him and what I've heard
Yeah.
about him as well.
Yeah, I mean it could work. I personally don't know enough of his. I haven't seen enough of his work to be able to give you my assessment, but he looks the part. I mean, it would just depend on again, like what characteristics specifically they're going for. So yeah, good going so far. I mean, we're halfway through the list, and
Yes.
so far I
the
still
next
mostly connect to Paul
two
Mescal.
I
Yeah.
have, so he's 28, by the way. And so the next two I have are both 33. So they are past that Amazon limit that apparently they
Mhm.
have allegedly, if the short list is anything to
I
actually
think that's
go
still a
by.
bit of a rumor, but yeah.
But yes, but the next one I have is Jack Rayner. Now, this guy, I
Okay.
feel like the only thing I've seen from him is Midsummer, and he was a fucking
Dude,
jackass
he
in
was
that fucking movie.
he was in Transformers: Age of Extinction, bro.
He was, we all
He's the one
have those.
driving the rally car that like punches those evil soldiers right in the face. One of
We
my
all
favorite
have
movie
one of
shots.
those bad movies we don't talk about. But anyway,
I
I
also
think
saw
Jack
him
Rayner.
in like the Man in the High Castle. I think he was in one of the seasons of that too.
Great show. Well, I
Yes.
mean, seasons 2 and 3 were great. Season 1 was
Yeah.
and then season
Yeah.
4 was not good. But
I
I
did
think
not
Jack
like how
Rayner.
that ended.
So the big thing I remember him from is Midsummer, right here,
Mhm.
and he was a fucking asshole in this movie. He was like the worst human being. Treated his girlfriend like shit. If
Mhm.
that isn't James Bond treating women like shit,
Well, no,
boom,
but it's
there you go.
also like you gotta
No,
have charm, right?
I'm kidding. But I
Yeah.
think like he does have that like kind of edginess to him. That's the wrong word. Like the edge to
See,
him.
the
Like
edge. My question to you, okay, because I think a big question that I have is I've never seen him do something where he doesn't have his accent. Can he do like just a like an London English accent, or
yeah, I think he could.
like
So
that was my concern.
I think he could. And I feel like again he's got a good like vibe to him. Obviously he needs to. Oh, there you go, Will Poulter, another
Mm-hmm.
person that was on like people's fan casting for which no. Um, but I think he does have like a bit of the like Bond douchiness that you kind of
Mm-hmm.
need to have for the role, but also he's got an edge to him that can that I think is good for Bond. He's got the look, and I think he just has he would definitely be the most Craig like out of all of them, where he's or like Dalton like, where he's like kind of that's just like gritty kind of
Mm-hmm.
Bond. So I think he could pull that off. And he's a good actor. Like I think
Yeah.
outside of all, I would say, I think he would be the third best out of all these guys. So yeah,
I mean,
I think he would be good.
what I'll say, the only thing that he's got missing is like maybe the
The
suaveness of
suaveness. I
Bond.
agree with that. I could see that,
You know,
but I just
like
saw this. I'm
yeah,
like, oh yeah, I know that. But the thing is, again, there was I Free Fire. I heard nothing but great things about this movie.
yeah.
So yeah, Ben Wheatley. That honestly, for a sequel, I could see Ben Wheatley directing a Bond film. But anyway,
Okay.
beside the point, I think he would
Yeah.
be good.
Okay.
Next one, or well, the final guy I have, who's also
Mm-hmm.
33. I think this is probably the most reaching, but George McKay. I think he is probably next to Galtazine or whatever the hell his name was, and Milcrease. He's probably the most out there, but he is a name. And the thing
I know
is,
one of you guys in the chat suggested him before, like the guy from 1917. That's him.
yeah.
Right there.
I think he doesn't necessarily have like the like Bond look to him. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying he's like ugly or anything. It's just like again the just kind of look. But I think if you're going for more of like a everyman Bond, like kind of like what Ian Fleming wanted
Mm-hmm.
for, that's who he envisioned as like, but he's like the everyman that can slip into the
Mm-hmm.
shadows like an actual spy.
I mean, look,
So
and he's already got experience in a war. Bond is a
and
war
Sam
veteran. Like
Mendes, who
he
directed
was in
Bond
World War
movies,
One or World War Two.
directed
It's
this.
true.
So there's
Yes.
that as well.
Yeah.
I think George McKay, and the thing is, next to Mezcal, he's probably the best
Mm-hmm.
actor out of all of
Mm-hmm.
these. He was tremendous in this. Everything I've seen of him, 1917, and I think I've seen a couple other movies with him. He's been great. He has been really good. And I think if we're just going by acting ability alone, I think he would be up there. But I think he also can bring sort of like, again, kind of like Craig's Bond, sort of like that vulnerability, like what it
Mm-hmm.
like kind of in the first two, like Casino Royale and then Quantum of Solace, where he was like a bit more of like not a hardened Bond yet, but he was like kind of a little bit more vulnerable. So if you want like more of like the everyman kind of
Yeah.
character or someone who could like slip into the shadows, I think George McKay could really do that. And he's really good. And, I think he could definitely pull it off in terms of acting ability. I know he's not
Yeah.
like what you would see as the character, but I think he's very good.
Definitely not the kind of Bond we have ever seen before. If they really want to go in a different direction, but I mean, he would have a sense of earnestness to him, like at least his appearance that
I
we
think he
haven't
could be
really
really
seen.
suave too.
Yeah, that could work too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you gotta also remember, like when Daniel Craig was offered the role, most people were like, "Who? Like that guy? Like he'd done a couple of movies that had nothing that would line him up for a
The
Bond
most
role." But
thing,
then
the
Broccoli
biggest
saw
movie
it.
he had was probably Layer Cake, that Matthew
Yeah,
Vaughn
it's
movie.
just,
So it was like,
and
but
it ended
hey,
up working out great.
and then the
It's expanded our definition.
final pick, Dan, is your pick. So why don't you talk
I've
about
been
this?
harping on this guy for a long time. Jack Loudon. He's 35 years old. I think if you go off just the age alone, he's the oldest of the 7 people on the list that we put together. I have been watching. I mean, he was in Dunkirk, the Christopher Nolan directed, of course. But he was much younger back then. But you can see, I think he's got the look. I think he's Scottish. Let me actually look this up just so I'm not giving you guys the wrong information. You guys can let me. Yes, he is Scottish. Let me know in the chat. Actually, I just figured it out. So He is Scottish, Jack Lowden, so I think he fits the description there. You know, we've seen Bond before, could be hail from Scotland, and he's currently on a show called Slow Horses. These images are from Slow Horses, where he basically plays a spy who works for MI6, in Slough House, as it were. But he's got the look. If height matters to you, he's got the height. He's been working with Gary Oldman. The guy's got acting chops. He's as British as they come. He's Scottish, of course. So like again, matches up with tradition. I think he's got the grit. I think he's got the suaveness. He's got the charisma. He's been acting long enough. He's done a number of different roles, ranging in all kinds of genres. Like you look at some of these images here, he's worked with fantastic actors and actresses, and I don't know if he's done theater, but he's certainly a fantastic screen actor. So I think, quite frankly, he's a name that a lot of people don't think of, but I think he's low key, probably in my opinion at least, the best name of the 7 that we have on this list right now. Because if you're not going the
he's really
Aaron
good.
Taylor Johnson route,
too old. Like he's 35.
No,
so
35 is fine. You can get 3
Aaron
movies.
Taylor Johnson's 35, and they're not looking for someone who's older than 30 because they want to do a multi-picture deal. Even though kind of a bullshit thing. Because look at this, Roger Moore was 45 when he was cast as Bond,
although back then,
running Bond.
But back then they were filming those. They were pumping those out. Like remember, the first 3 Bond movies came out in a span of 4 years. Because they were filming on studio backlots. They weren't filming on location, taking 2.5 years to make it. And like with Daniel Craig, he had a major injury on like half of his movies. So they further pushed things back. The pandemic happened. So I understand some of the rationale. It's kind of apples to oranges comparing the Connery era to today. But what I will say at the same time is I think 35 is fine. You can get at least 3 or 4 movies with him before he turns 45 or get anywhere close to 50. And that's probably as much as you want. I mean, how many movies do you want a Bond to do? Right? Like Connery did what, like 6? Right? That's the record. Like nobody has done more.
Roger Moore is the record with 8.
8? Oh God. Yeah. Okay. Well, 8. But I mean, nobody wants. I don't think Amazon's looking for 8 movie Bond. I feel like if they get a trilogy, then they'll see where they go from there. And I feel like Jack Lowden could be it. He could definitely. He's freaking James Bond. I don't know. I've been convinced this man could play Bond for a long time.
I've heard his name talked about, not just by you, but by a couple different people. I think he would be very good. He's not my out of all of these. I think for me personally, I think Mezcal. I know that I'm just being biased. Mezcal, Swindells, and I think Rayner would probably be my favorite choice, but I think Jack Lowden would probably be up there too. I mean, he's better than fucking the dude from fucking He-Man and the guy from Bridgerton spinoff. It's just like I was trying to find names.
No, it's fair. I just I think again, I'll just say this, and he's miles and heads and shoulders above. And far and away the best pick.
He's a very good actor from what I've seen.
Great actor. I mean, he's British, Scottish heritage. He's got the height, he's got the looks, he's got the suaveness, the charisma, the acting ability, everything. The guy is in Slow Horses. He practically plays a spy for the MI6 on Apple TV. I mean, if this was an Apple, like if Apple had bought the James Bond franchise, I'd be like, you got one right there in house. But anyway. I think you can do it. But John, so you can clearly tell that's my favorite pick. Who was your favorite from the list that you picked out?
Here's the thing. I know Paul Mescal would never do it, but I think he would be probably my favorite choice out of all of these. Not just because I know him. It's just like this. I can tell you this dude, he's gonna be the next Pixar, and I hope Gladiator 2 is that push to get him to that. I mean, he's going to be in that Beatles quadrilogy of with Barry Keoghan, Harris Dickinson, who was one of the other names on the short list, and Joseph Quinn. So I hope by again Sam Mendes, who directed Skyfall and Spectre. But I think he would be just he's gonna whether Bond or not, this dude is gonna be the next big fucking star. Like this guy, I could see it. I saw it with Gladiator 2. My sister was telling me like all these other movies he was in. She's like, this guy is so good. Like he's such a tremendous actor. Also, oh my god, he's so hot, of course. But hey, except that is proof. Like like the whole idea of Bond, men want to be him, women want to be with him. That is him in terms of looks. He has the charisma, the suaveness, the acting ability, and he's a very attractive guy. Obviously, we don't want a guy that looks like me to be James Bond. Nobody was going to see that movie. So I would
You
say,
never know.
I think he checks all the
inside.
boxes, but he can also give something that is possibly a surprise that we haven't even seen yet because he's just that good. So
Yeah, that whole I think
Mescal would be a great choice.
Yeah, it's like with Daniel Craig when people were like not really sure. Then Casino Royale comes out and that parkour, chase scene in the first 15 minutes of the movie, off the bat, people are like, okay, this is great. This is the new Bond. Great, it works, right? Like they immediately establish the expectation, and then from there you get into the more suave aspect, and then all the other super spy stuff that he's doing in the movie. I think you can very quickly establish somebody as a Bond with just the first opening sequence of the movie. We have seen that before many a times, including with Daniel Craig. And like I said, whether it's Paul Mescal or whether it's Jack Lowden, I think both would be fantastic picks. You guys let us know in the comments down below, who would you like to see as potentially the next James Bond? We know Denis Villeneuve is directing the movie, but of course we now need to know or figure out who is going to be his 007. Do you agree with our picks? John picked Paul Mescal as his favorite. Of course, we have 7 names in total, but you did Paul Mescal, Nicolas Galtazine, you had Corey Milchrist, you had Connor Swindells, Jack Rayner, George McKay, and Jack Lowden. A couple of Jacks in there, actually. So which of those names are you a fan of the most? Which of those guys do you think fits the bill for the new 007? Let us know in the comments down below. Of course, we would love to hear from you, and hit the notification bell if you're new here so you know when we are live with these shows. Hit subscribe if you want to check us out on a regular basis, and hit the like button if you enjoyed the fan casting. We will take your suggestions in the chat, bring them into the Q&A session on the next Q&A show that we will do the following Friday, because we already picked out the comments for this week, but we will, if you have any fan castings of your own, let us know in the comments down below. With that, let's move on to the next thing, because we got to do some quick hits now, because, of course, as always, not only are we here to talk about the big pieces of news, then there's a few smaller pieces of news that we like to talk about. So let's dive into this, shall we, John? The very first quick hit today we got to get into, like yesterday, has something to do with Brad Pitt, because, of course, he's doing a lot of promotional work for F1, which is out in movie theaters now. Brad Pitt and F1 director Joseph Kosinski were recently talking about, their experience filming F1 at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, saying it was amazing. And they were rolling cameras. They had to stop. Basically, there was a lot of disruption in the events of the day, but obviously F1 was happy to do it. And you can imagine Dubai is not it's not cool over there. But they got a chance to take advantage of all the resources that were available to them. And I've seen all the behind the scenes footage of this. It looks fantastic. It's like Kosinski at one point said, all 10 teams in the race allowed us to shoot a scene for an hour. It was a really, really incredible experience, an ideal place to film such a distinct setting in such a beautiful location. John, your thoughts on just overall, again, you've seen F1, so how real did it feel watching, Brad Pitt and all the characters in this movie race in real, Grand Prix tracks and real F1 locations with real F1, people teams and talent and cars all over. Lewis Hamilton, being like one of the big consultants on the movie. Did you feel like the realism of F1 came through in the movie, considering how they went around shooting it?
Yeah, I think that is really awesome, and it just goes to show how great that movie really is when they're, doing stuff like this.
Yeah. I absolutely, can't wait. I haven't seen it yet, unfortunately, but I absolutely cannot wait to see this movie. It looks so damn good. All right, move on to the next thing, John. One battle after another. Remember, Paul Thomas Anderson's coming out with a new movie. It's got DiCaprio in it, Penn, Del Toro, Regina Hall, Tiana Taylor, Chase Infantini. They now have a new poster, as you can see here on screen, with the tagline, "Some search for battle, others are born into it." only in cinemas in September, shot on VistaVision. Experience it in IMAX. Not only did they put out this new poster, John, they also put out a new clip. It was a 40-second clip. It's kind of intense. I don't know if you got a chance to check it out. It looked pretty cool to me. This movie, every time I take a look at it, it's like, what am I watching? But I can't look away. That's the vibe that I get from this movie.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely going to be insane, and it definitely just felt like a shortened version of the trailer with maybe a little bit new footage. It didn't really feel like a clip, so I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So it just gives us a little tease, and then that's kind of it.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this is, again, every time I see Leonardo DiCaprio in this outfit, I'm like, this has already become a meme, and I can't wait for it to become more memes. The Benicio del Toro character, all those guys together, is absolute gold. So far, this thing looks amazing to me. I can't wait to see what it turns into when we finally get to see it in the movie theater. But yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson, his latest movie, one battle after another with Leonardo DiCaprio in the lead role. We can't wait to see it. The next quick hit, though, John, we have is Netflix and Disney Plus battling it out words for anime supremacy as streaming wars enter a new phase, according to a study by research from Dentsu. Because Netflix, of course, dominates right now as the go-to platform for anime content globally. They have around 48% of the viewers subscribing to such programming. Then Disney Plus comes in second at 32%, Prime Video at 29%. This was, of course, one of the surveys they did with over 8,000 responses, Sean. So do you think this is an area where Disney can actually, get into Netflix's market share, or does Netflix have too much of a lead that they won't ever give up?
Maybe, although kind of surprising because it feels like Netflix, those streaming services, like once being dead. But if like this is the case, then maybe it really isn't, and we're still stuck with this shitty streaming service for God knows how much longer.
Yeah. Well, I do enjoy a lot of the anime that's on Netflix. I've gone into a lot more of it recently, but there's always other options out there. So speaking of other options, people have chosen pretty much every other option than watching Megan 2.0 in the movie theater, and as a result of that, soul searching has to be done over at Blumhouse because they've got a bit of a cold streak going on right now. Talking about Megan 2.0 recently, Jason Blum said apparently it was not the sequel audiences wanted, which I'm like, you could have probably figured that out before you spent the money on making this movie and then putting it out at a time when there was so much competition. I know that Megan 2.0 didn't make a lot of money, but they've also had a recent run of other movies like it that haven't made a ton of money. In fact, they pointed out here, they had Wolfman, which only made 34 million worldwide. The Woman in the Yard, 23 million. Drop, 28.6 million. So, none of these movies have made any amount of money that would, justify their own budget. Not to mention Megan 2.0, they were thinking it was going to be potentially part 2 in a whole franchise, kind of like almost like Terminator 2 Judgment Day, but it went from that to being almost like the movie that maybe killed Megan once and for all, John.
Yeah.
Do you agree that maybe it wasn't the sequel that the audiences wanted?
I mean, it's just one of those things where it's just like, I don't think M3gan really warranted like a sequel. I understand they had that kind of cliffhanger at the end where it was like, oh, she's still alive. But then they again kind of retcon that, kind of like what they did with BVS and Justice League, where it was like, oh, Superman's not dead, but no, he's actually dead and they have to resurrect him. So it's like, that's not what you were planning to do. Then it's like, oh, we're gonna, M3gan is gonna be brought back. Oh, like, oh, she's not dead, she's gonna take over. And then it's like, no, we have to physically bring her back anyway. It's like, you're kind of retconning what you were planning to do.
Yeah,
anyway.
the whole retcon thing, yeah,
it makes no sense. So it's just
almost never works. Yeah,
it's weird. Like, because the thing is, I feel like you're in, like, my hatred of M3gan aside, it's just kind of, you're stuck in like between a rock and a hard place, because like if you do the same thing over again, yeah, you might, that's like the safe option, but then it's like, oh, we're getting the same movie over again. Okay, that's kind of boring. But if you do something so different like M3gan 2.0 did, then you're gonna, you're gonna lose people, and that's exactly what happened here. Because the thing is, a lot of people have made the I mentioned this earlier this week, where it's like people made the reference to like Aliens, Terminator 2. Well, they changed tonal. That was like tonal changes. It's like, yeah, you had James Cameron, like that dude is like a legend, and this guy
he never
is
misses.
James Cameron.
Rarely,
So
if
it's like,
ever. Yeah.
he can make the jump from sci-fi horror, whether it's something he created or not, whether it's Aliens, something he didn't do, or Terminator, something he did do, and made it into more like action based. It worked, like, because the thing is, Alien, where you're going to go from there, the Terminator, where you're going to go from there. Okay, for Sir Ridley Scott's film, it was like so deep, grungy, blue collar horror that he's like, okay, I have these ideas, and they turned out to be really good. And then on top of the fact, the Terminator, he wanted that to be a slasher movie, but people saw that as a sci-fi action movie because of like all the car chases and stuff. So it's like, okay, I'll double down on the stuff that worked in the first movie and inflate those in the sequel. And we got a great movie because of that, because he doubled down on the things that people liked. And we got that movie because it was already present in that first movie. So, again, like, you have these talented filmmakers that can make those tonal changes work. M3gan is like this rinky-dink little horror franchise, I use the term loosely, that is being made by a company who's notorious for shilling out garbage on, like, where 9 times out of 10 the movie sucks, where one time you get something actually good, like Sinister or Black Phone. So it's like, all right, okay. And those are both made by the same director, ironically enough. So
I mean, it's also that it seems like they've learned all the wrong lessons. Like,
yeah,
clearly,
the thing is they turn a profit usually
at.
because they're cheaply made.
Yeah.
Because horror movies, they're super cheap. You can make it for like $1 million to $5 million. You're gonna get all that money back in the week, during the weekend, even plus the marketing, which is like what, maybe 10 million. You're gonna get all that money, and that for, like, technically they did make a profit already because it's so cheap, but it's not the big profits they want, and so they got to be like, okay, let's try to go back and make what works. Are they going to change? No, they're still going to make schlocky, shitty PG-13 horror movies that are going to make money, but they're probably just going to slightly tweak it that so they can make some of their money back.
I mean, I certainly don't think we're getting another Megan movie anytime soon, if ever. No. So at least that is there's a nail in that.
Cinema lives again, ladies and gents.
All right, let's keep going. James Bond movies with Sean Connery. Renee Zellweger directed short set for Edinburgh Fest. The 78th edition of the Scottish Festival will include 18 feature film world premieres, including, of course, Renee Zellweger's short film as well. So that's really cool. I mean, Edinburgh Film Festival. We were just doing a James Bond fan casting. I mean, Sean Connery, one of the legends, right, of from that part of town, as it were. I can't wait to see what else they've got playing over there. So, with that though, John, the next thing, of course, it has to be Superman. We can't go on too long in the show without talking about Superman. They've got some, more posters out in the wild. Eddie Gattegi, posting about it. Like, this is the poster I wanted to get into, though. This is like the one we have seen before, except now we have an English version of it, and you see the Superman.
It's like a very 80s poster where it's like kind of the floating heads thing, but it has like a bit more substance to it.
Yeah. It's made pretty creatively. I like the symmetry there and how the pieces fit together. Of course, we had the Chinese version for a long time, and now I like the English one too. And also that Superman logo, that's the only time I've seen that type treatment with Superman, kind of embossed within the logo, that we haven't really seen in any of the other, posters. Like, for example, even this one here, more of a throwback poster, doesn't even have Superman's name on it, but I like these. These are the
to show how
powerful
that symbol is, that character,
Exactly. Of course, that is a very powerful pose too. Keeping on rolling here though. Julie Bowen, of course, from Modern Family, and before that, Happy Gilmore, played the love interest of Adam Sandler's character in the first movie. John, she said recently that she really thought that they were going to replace her with a younger woman, saying, "I didn't think they'd bring me back at all." So she was surprised when,
that's nature of the beast sometimes.
Yeah, but hey, she was surprised when Netflix asked her to come back for Happy Gilmore 2, which
I
of course
think
is on the
Adam
way.
Sandler campaigned for her to come back here. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler, he's one of those guys that's in a lot of those comedy movies where he's like a schlubby guy who's somehow married to the most absolute bombshell you could possibly imagine. Look at the Grown Ups movies with fucking Salma Hayek. So I'm just saying, I think this is a compliment because it's like Adam Sandler only.
Are you
married
saying
to...
Julie Bowen is not an absolute bombshell?
No. I'm saying that.
Yeah, there you go.
Saying, because Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Bombshells. I'm just saying. Saying. I think that's the takeaway from here. And you know what? I don't even know how old she is. She looks great for her age, whatever it is.
She looks amazing still. I mean,
at this point, so
if they were to do a Modern Family revival, I don't know if anybody's interested in that, but if they were to, I mean, she could just come back right into her role as unfortunately a lot of the actors are still around. Not that that's a very old show or anything like that, but Julie Bowen, I mean, I'm glad that she's back part of the franchise for the sequel, and I can't wait to see more what a character has to offer.
It's funny because a friend of mine was saying like, oh, they're gonna do the legacy sequel thing where the person is like, oh, they're divorced, they're unhappy, they did but no, it looks like they're on good terms. They're happily married. They're still.
Yeah, I want to see more of
together.
that. Like, come on,
unfortunately we can't see more of Adam Sandler's grandmama, but like I love how Ben Stiller fucking came back. Like I know this movie is either going to be really funny or really fucking terrible.
Dude, I was at Fanatics Fest and I saw like they had this whole thing set up at like a Netflix sports section for Happy Gilmore. You can like hit balls into like this digital golf simulator and stuff. I was like, I'm ready for this movie.
I will say, I think it is kind of funny that Bad Bunny is like the dumbass caddy. I'm like, that's the perfect role for him.
Bad Bunny will do anything, man. Like that, I appreciate that man's like willingness to try.
I'm like
at least
weirdly once. Like here's the thing. I've seen the first one. I've seen like pretty much because it was one of those movies that was on cable a lot. Like I would like catch. It was one of those things where I never caught it like from the beginning and watched it all the way through. So I like always caught like the last 30 minutes here, like the fucking 20 minutes in the middle, and I would like catch pieces. But like through that, I pretty much watched the entire movie, and I always liked it. I thought it was funny. Like I'm not a huge Adam Sandler guy, but like I thought Happy Gilmore was pretty funny. So and plus you had
one of his
Carl
best
Weathers,
movies.
Was great, and I mean the whole casting, the Bob Barker fight was freaking hilarious. So I'm glad that they brought her back, and they're not doing the similar legacy sequel thing where it's like, oh, we're booting the old.
I'm glad they're finally bucking that trend. I hope this sets a new trend because I would like to see more of that. Like it's like this whole like
some people can be happy. Hopefully they do the same thing for Shrek 5, and they don't like they're divorced and unhappy.
I think that if you go off the teaser, then I think that is where they're going with it. But anyway, moving on to the next thing, Necoxa docuseries. Of course, this is like a spin-off of Welcome to Wrexham, based on the team Necoxa owned by Eva Longoria. I forget which country they play in, but this new show is set for an August premiere date this year. It'll be featured on FXX, premiering on August 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, Longoria partnered with Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds for this. So this is going to be also featured on FX and Disney Latin America. Club Necoxa, of course, is based in Mexico, in Aguascalientes, if I said that correctly. I can't wait to see what this turns into. I mean, look, Welcome to Wrexham is a huge hit, and they've moved up like the English league tiers like 3 seasons in a row. Now they're in the championship. I mean, it's wild what they've been up to over there. So I don't know if you're gonna have the same level of success from Necoxa for the spinoff, but good on Eva Longoria. I can't wait to see what this looks like. I'll be watching on August 7th. But yeah, let's keep the ball rolling here. Neil Patrick Harris, John, is set to host Netflix game show What's in the Box. Are you excited to watch this? It's been described as a massive guessing game where each decision can lead to life-changing rewards. It premieres sometime in December.
Don't really care. I mean, I love NPH, but I don't really care about game shows.
Yeah, same. But I mean, I guess we'll see. Maybe I'll catch an
I
episode.
mean, I
and
like
see if
watching
like
Jeopardy, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. The sixth, Dora the Explorer, wants to have the same career as number 5. Of course, we know number 5 was Isabella Merced. So Dora the Explorer, the Dora and the Search for Sol Dorado star Samantha Lorraine, you see her in the picture there, is looking to follow Isabella Merced's backpack, saying, and hopefully following in her footsteps with the new straight-to-streaming movie. So, of course, we know Isabella Merced has moved on to bigger and better things like Superman and, The Last of Us. But we do still have to fill the boots of Dora the Explorer, and we've got a new direct-to-streaming movie coming out in July. John, what are your thoughts?
A friend of mine watched this. He's like, it's a cute movie, nothing great. But yeah, I hope, if she's good enough in this, that she can go on to, Isabella Merced's type of career. Let's just skip the, Madam Web part. And go straight to the Last of Us Superman part.
Yeah, let's just. I'm glad. Well, I don't think she'll have a problem because I hear Sony's not doing those anymore. So
yeah, we'll see. They also said Hayao Miyazaki also said he'd retire after The Wind Rises. Clint Eastwood said he'd retire after Juror Number 2.
Well, so far Clint Eastwood is holding the line. So at least
he said he's coming back. So he's going to do
already. Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if Tarantino's going to do the same thing eventually.
No, I can't imagine. He's too full of himself to back on his promise. But
which is why he's avoided directing the last 5 movies he should have directed. But anyway,
but yeah, I mean, good for her. I hope she gets a nice career if she's good at what she does. If she sucks, then
talent speaks for itself. Let us know in the comments down below, guys, what you liked about those quick hits. What was your favorite topic? We had a number of different things, including Superman. So let us know what you enjoyed the most. We'd love to hear from you. Of course, if you are new here, hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. Hit subscribe if you appreciate what we do, because that way you can follow us 5 days a week when we're live, and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Of course, with that, now we're going to move into the main event of the show as per always. And to do that, we've got a new fancy intro that we like to play before we get started. But it's time for DCU Daily. We've got a lot to get into today. We're going to have more Superman content. We have some reasons for why we think Superman may or may not be a success. And then, of course, we have your Q&A session to wrap up the week, as we always do. So with that, let's move on to the next episode, the upcoming episode, the Friday edition of DCU Daily.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
right there.
Hey, buddy, eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts.
Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you, really, I'm doing sublime. I never wait in the stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all in the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto.
Hunka hunka.
All right, welcome on into another episode of DCU Daily. This is our Friday show, so it is the final DCU Daily show of the week. But we are looking ahead to what is going to be the most exciting week in the history of DCU Daily. We've been building up to it for months and months and months, so in a lot of ways, years, quite frankly. So we're finally, on the precipice of Superman coming out. So on this Friday, before the Monday when the reviews will be out, so we'll be finally able to talk about it in a little more detail, keeping the spoilers away from you until next Friday. But basically, the egg will be cracked open and we'll get to see what's inside next week. But before we get that far, John, I want to get your opinion on what are you most excited about today on DCU Daily. We have a number of different stories to talk about. Mm-hmm. Which of those excites you the most?
Oh, I think I like Gunn talking about more of his process. I think that's good. I know we have the big thing of the 5 reasons and whatnot, but I like Gunn talking about his process. I think that's always an interesting thing. I like when directors talk about their inspirations, what worked, what didn't, and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to get into all of those pieces. I'm gonna hit the stop on that music and let's dive into it, shall we? So let's start with talking about James Gunn, like you mentioned. Basically, again, one of the many interviews that he did at the press junket. This one comes from IGN, and of course, the person asking him here, as you can see in the subtitles, how did you deal with the challenge of not having any needle drops? Like James Gunn has always relied on needle drops in his movies, and here he said, there's none. There's no a song that everybody loves that I can lean on for emotional beats and moving the story forward. Of course, he recently said that he loves Bollywood, and it's a big part of his inspiration, whether it's the anime style, the heightened reality of Bollywood movies, or the fact that anybody can break into song and dance, which of course we have seen. The first Guardians movie starts with Chris Pratt breaking into song and dance, but that will not be happening in Superman, John. So
anyway,
James Gunn saying like it really changes his approach. It forced him to level up a little bit because he couldn't rely on those needle drops to get through some of those character moments. How much do you think it forced him to grow as a filmmaker as a result of that?
I think that is kind of a, like, here's the thing. I think a good needle drop is really, really good. Sometimes it's really effective, and I think James Gunn is really effective at doing that. Then you have guys, Taika Waititi's, who do needle drops and they don't add anything to the story. They're like, oh, this is a cool song, let's add it. Or Suicide Squad was another one. I don't blame that on David Ayer. I blame that on the editing company that DC hired, because they're like, the people like the trailer. Let's hire the trailer company to make the movie. Sure, that makes sense. So I think needle drops I'm very like uneasy about in movie like this, like, because the thing is that was perfect. Like whether you like it or not, whether you like James Gunn, you hate James Gunn, that needle drop was perfect in showcasing who Star-Lord was as a character. Like that, like it, like his vibe, who he was, where music entered his life, it worked. And so I really like that, and I really appreciate that, and more stuff like that, rather than just like, oh, let's insert November Rain into this action scene because reasons. Okay. But yeah, I think he's going out of his comfort zone. I appreciate that. And yeah, and I also liked how, I think it was this interview, I mean, all of them blend together in terms of this press junket. So like I remember there was another one, I don't think we're talking about it here, but I'll just quickly mention, where he was talking about how he was like, this is like the first superhero movie I've like ever done, because he was saying that he's like, well, Super with Rainn Wilson is just a douchebag with a wrench that kills people. It's like, all right, that's not really a superhero. And then Guardians of the Galaxy, they're like space adventurers, and then the Suicide Squad, that's super villains. So this is the real first like true blue superhero movie I've done. So I thought that was like an interesting way to like really like see how he's actually finally doing like real superhero movie.
Like one of the things he also said, I think, in one of these many interviews, was that while he considers Guardians of the Galaxy like his ode to cinema, like this that he grew up watching, this is an ode to superhero cinema, this Superman movie, and he's been trying to crack it for a very long time. In fact, we'll get into a little bit of that later. But John, here again, part of the Real Rejects interview that he did, one of the things that he was talking about was writer's block, right? Like, is it real? And he talks about how you had to kind of just push through it, because at one point he wrote like over 600 pages between Superman, Creature Commandos, and Peacemaker season 2. And he was like, even when he was away for a New Year's holiday with his wife Jennifer Holland, they were in Hawaii, and like he was stuck on for a few days, like writing in a hotel room. He's like, I'm writing your show, and like, but Jennifer was like, I'm sure he was like, I'd rather you be my husband right now than write my show. But so I mean, some sacrifices were made, I guess. But like at the end of the day, he was like, I had to push through some of those days. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm writing bad, it's okay. Just push through it and then iterate on it, rather than, always facing the blank canvas. Like, that's how he deals with it. He kind of just chooses to run through that wall of writer's block. Do you agree, as somebody who has written a few scripts of your own, John? How do you deal with writer's block? And then again, just kind of seeing the advice that James Gunn's giving you here, somebody who has written, thousands of pages, like, dozens of different stories, and and quite frankly, he's written the first 3 projects in this new DCU. How do you relate to James Gunn's experience and what he's talking about here?
You know, yeah, I mean, writer's block is definitely real because I remember I was like almost 40 pages into the script I was working on. And I just like, even though I had the treatment there to help me
Mhm.
push through, it just like, I just either didn't want to write or just felt like I couldn't. So I just didn't. And then, of course, like bad shit happened. Then I just never really went back to it. Hopefully, I can now that I'm a little bit more time on my hands. But I do hope that yeah, that I eventually get back to that place because it's like writer's block can be really annoying. Even if you have like the treatment there, the ideas there, sometimes it's just hard to like find the motivation to really get that on the page and in a way you like. And but even then, it's like what you're taught. Well, at least what I was taught was like rough drafts are gonna suck because it's just like you're essentially just copy pasting everything in your head or from even from a treatment from an outline onto the page, and it's not going to gel, it's not going to work, it's not going to be great. And so you got to like, and then when you're like that's what I was like when it sucked. That is essentially what is your rough cut sucks and your rough draft sucks. Like that is always the case whenever you're making well, at least in this case, a movie because rough cut, rough draft. So when it's rough, it sucks. That is what is always the case, no matter how good of a writer you are, no matter how good you think you are, your rough sucks, and you're just like essentially your rough draft is just, as I said, copy pasting those ideas onto the
Yeah.
page, and then your cut is like essentially copy pasting all of your scenes onto a timeline with no gelling, and you have to like make that work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like, and I get that, I understand that as someone who is a writer or at least claims to be a writer, depending on what your definition of a writer is. um it can be a lot, and it
Yeah.
sometimes it just gets to you and you just feel like you can't do it, and
Yeah.
I agree with him here.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I've learned as a writer over time, and I've turned a few of my scripts into movies and such, but it's writing is rewriting, really. Like you're rarely ever gonna get it right on the first try. I mean, it's the same thing with many a creative process, right? Like whether you're painting, writing, making a movie, editing video, I don't know, any kind of form of creative work, art form, motion design, graphic design. It's illustrating, whether it's physically, like with tools like paint and or if it's digital illustration. It's just you're always going to iterate on your work. And I mean, there's the opposite end of the spectrum too, of like, Ron Howard likes to say, like, everything that you work on will somehow in the end just find a way to, come around and break your heart. Like you never quite have something completed ever. Like even George Lucas used to say that. Although, then he kind of went crazy and like forever for like, just if he still could, he still would be updating the Star Wars movies and all the latest editions. But so it's never done. But at the same time, if you're starting out and you're stuck, the best thing to do to get out of writer's block is to just kind of push through and write some crap. But it will get your gears moving, and then hopefully it will lead to some better stuff and give you something to work off of. Because it's a lot easier to change and iterate and make something better where you already have a page or several pages full of a story that may suck, but it's better than having a blank canvas, because that blank canvas will give you more dread than anything else. So that would be my advice. But I mean, hey, you know what? None of us have had as much success as James Gunn, and it seems like, if he's able to push through it, then so can we. And obviously, we have seen the results. Now, one of the things I did want to mention, though, John, that was kind of cool, and this is not from one of the interviews that they've done on the press junket, but it's from the DC Studios Showcase podcast that James is the official podcast of DC Studios that James Gunn came on recently, and Coy Jandreau, who's one of the hosts on the show, he mentioned to him like, hey, years ago, like almost 10 years ago, he did an interview with James Gunn, and back then James Gunn was talking about how he was trying to crack like the code to making a good Superman movie. This 10 years ago must have been like right around the time Man of Steel had come out. So I guess it was right around the time that James Gunn was working on the first Guardians movie, and obviously you see Nathan Fillion in that photo as well. So it seems like James Gunn has been thinking about this for a very long time, and he didn't remember having this conversation before with Coy, and then he had to remind him here and then show him proof with the photo, which is kind of insane, John. So we know James Gunn, for him, it's been a long time coming making the Superman movie, and it's been a dream of his to turn into reality. But I mean, hey, we've got some proof here that he was thinking about cracking this nut even 10 years ago when he was firmly entrenched in the Marvel world.
Yeah, I it's something like, but there was a difference between him wanting to do it and like the idea of like him actually doing it. Because I remember he was like, when I got offered, I was like, I'm not ready to do this, and then finally at a certain point, he's like, okay, now I'm ready to do it. So there is that as well. So like, I liked how James Gunn, even though he talked about this, about the character of Superman and thinking about that, he still had enough reasonable ideas and like logic behind it. So it's like, okay, would I want to do this? Yes, but do I have the experience, knowledge, and ability to go through with that? And he's like, you know what? I fucking don't. Like, for instance, would I love to readapt The Shining for film? Sure. Do I have the ability, the experience, or the knowledge to do that? Hell no. And plus, I also don't want Kubrick fans to murder me in my bed. So there is
Fair
that
enough.
as well. But it's a whole sort of thing of like recognizing that, and I think that's a very important part to this as well. So I like how he did say this. I'm like, oh, it was always on my mind, but like also attaching that to what he has said before with Superman and him getting offered and him deducing on whether or not he could do it or not. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, and he took on the Suicide Squad because he felt like that would be a better fit for him than
ensemble piece,
yeah,
not the
just
best like group of people, that was his
but
bread and butter at that point.
yeah, and then eventually when he had the script idea and everything for Superman, that's when David Zaslav just happened to be coming into the Warner Brothers Discovery, the newly minted Warner Brothers Discovery, and was like, you know what, you want to take over the whole franchise? We want to start this thing over, and you can be the man in charge. And he was like, I'll do it if Peter Safran comes over with me and works with me, because I'm not good with the finances. I'm the creative guy. So, and here we are. So speaking of Superman, though, John, I found this on social media. This comic account, they're great at what they do. They put together a list of Superman comics that I think are some must reads before you go watch Superman. So I know it's pretty close now, so you probably won't be able to read all of them, given how close we are to the movie coming out. Depending on when you're watching it, you might be a day or two away from the movie itself. But nonetheless, even if you have seen the movie, I think these comics are essential reading, John. So the first one being Superman American Alien. That looks like a really, really good pick where you can pick this up, and it thematically will give you a lot of the references for what James Gunn has been doing with his movie, and as an extension of that, the new cinematic universe, the new DCU. Action Comics number 662. With the glasses there, the iconic glasses. Then Superman's Secret Origin. Yeah, you're getting more of that Lex Luthor, the Kryptonite, and the evil machinations of Lex. All-Star Superman. We have talked about it at length of how crucial, and James Gunn has mentioned how essential it has been to his iteration of Superman, what he sees as like the quintessential Superman. Then you got Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, Volume 2, because of course we're getting a very comic accurate Jimmy Olsen here that you have never seen before on a big screen. So
the Jimmy Olsen that got that riz.
Of course. And then we got Lois Lane Volume 2, which, I mean, we're getting a very, very strong, powerful, and just, successful Lois Lane. And a Lois Lane that feels plucked straight out of the pages of the comic books. And this is the one that would give you a really good idea of what is the core of that character. Then you've got Lex Luthor, Man of Steel. I think we talked about this last year as like, one of the inspirations and like how this could factor into the movie. And as when we see the movie, we'll see again, where the inspirations are coming from, John. Then we get into Kingdom Come, of course. The logo is inspired by it, the new Superman logo. We know James Gunn is probably gonna get more influences from this for the big scale, the big picture of the DCU. But of all the comics that they mention here, John, which ones do you believe are must reads, or would you say all of them are worth a shot before or after you see the movie Superman?
So, in terms of the ones I have actually read, because I can't, say the ones that I haven't read because that would be
Yeah.
untruthful. But in terms of the ones I have read. Let's go backwards. I have read Kingdom Come. I definitely believe it's one of the greatest, Superman stories. One of the greatest DC, arguably the greatest DC story of all time. Like I've jokingly said this before. Like Mark Wade, apparently he's like a huge dickwad, but like honestly, he can kick my dog and I'd still fucking bow at his feet because the man made Kingdom Come and he doesn't fucking need any. Like, dude, I'll bow down. It's fine. Kingdom Come. You made that. You can act like a jackass all you fucking want. I know he made Wade Devil and his run on Daredevil sucks, but like, you know what? He can do anything he wants. He made Kingdom Come, so that's fine. But I have not read Lex Luthor Man of Steel, but I do own it. I've heard nothing but great things about it. I haven't read Lois Lane Volume 2 or Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen Volume 2. All-Star Superman is very, very, very good. However, I do think it's a little overrated. I hate Frank Quitely's art. I'm sorry. I know that that's like heathen. How dare he lynch him? Blah blah blah. But like I just really don't like the art. It's just like everyone looks like a gross tumor to me, and that was like a very hard part in reading it. Was I just couldn't get past the art. Like at least Tim Sale, like I'm not a huge fan of his art either, but like I like respect it because like it's still very well done, but it's not my thing. This I just couldn't get. I hate this art so much. And on top of the fact, I'm not a huge fan of vignette storytelling, and that's what All Star Superman is. So I just like I liked it, but like with everyone telling you how amazing it is, and you're reading it, and it's just like, okay, it's good, but it's not like, oh my god, the greatest thing since sliced bread. So it's a good story, but I think it is a little bit overrated. Secret Origin, I have not read. Action Comics 662, I have not read, and I haven't read American Alien either. So out of all of these, I think Kingdom Come is excellent, and I think All Star Superman is good but overrated. I think yeah. Sorry to the people that watching this that are huge All Star Superman fans, but I would say but also Superman for All Seasons is great. Like that was another inspiration. So I might read some of these before the movie comes out. So yeah. And you are muted.
Sorry, I was gonna say I've got a few of them, and I might try to give them a chance so I can be a little more prepared for Superman when it comes out in a few days from now. So, guys, let us know which of these comics have you read, guys and gals. Like, are you looking forward to seeing Superman based on the fact that you read all these comic books, or maybe at least some of them? I know Kingdom Come, All Star Superman are the two big ones, but there's a few other really good suggestions in there, suggestions or must reads. You guys let us know in the comments down below. Right now, we're going to move on to talking about one of the two main events. Today's a double main event kind of day, guys. So the first one we have to talk about, of course, has to do with Superman and the reasons why it will do well or maybe not do well at the box office. So as Superman is set to come out in movie theaters just days away from when we're doing the show live, we figured it's a good time to talk about the reasons why Superman might be a hit and then the reasons why Superman might be a flop. So the way we're going to make this work is, John, you and I have both picked out 5 reasons apiece. So in total, I guess you could say there's 20 reasons. But basically, you picked out 5 reasons why you think Superman will be a hit, and then 5 reasons why you think it will be
some of them overlap.
flop.
But
yeah, we do, which is okay. We'll go through both of ours. I mean, and then I did the same thing. So I picked out 5 reasons why I think Superman will be a success and why it will, and then 5 reasons why I think it would fail. So let's get started. I want to start with you though. What was your thinking behind this? And then if you want to lead us through your reasons and talk through them, and then I'll go through mine after.
my 13 reasons why.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Calm down. But so what do you want to start with? Do you want me to start with like succeed? Okay. So
there you go.
We'll start with succeed. I wasn't sure. So okay, so good news first. So for my succeeding reasons, the first one I have is Superman is still one of the most popular superheroes of all time. In terms of the top 3 is Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man. Now I know Batman is technically the more popular one, but I mean, I think it was Kevin Smith that did that theory, and we talked about it. I think I talked about it on the show with Bridget, where it was like when Batman is popular, like life is good, but when Superman is popular, life is bad, and we need hope. Because, like, for instance, Batman was super popular in the 90s when this was like after the Cold War. We didn't really have it was kind of like a decade of bliss, quote unquote, almost like a lot of terrible things ended, like Cold War ended, apartheid ended in 1991. We had the Gulf War for a little bit, but it was mainly like stability in the, and that's why everyone's like kind of thinking about the 90s so much. And that's when Batman was popular, because it's like, oh, we're okay. Let's talk about this dark and brooding character. Meanwhile, life is shit now, so we're like, we need Superman more than ever. So, and I think that that fact is and he's still one of the most best-selling and most popular superheroes of all time. So that is definitely a huge thing with this character, and like people, it's one of the most recognizable symbols, even though it's the Kingdom Come version, as you can see in the top corner over there and down there. It's still recognizable. You still see the diamond like crest. You still see the red kind of S, and you see the yellow. You're like, that's Superman, and that's recognizable. He is still extremely popular, even with some of the reasons we'll get to later. He's still popular. Kids, adults, tons of people love Superman, and that's just that adds into that fact of like Superman doing well. Then you have James Gunn at the helm. Like, in terms of his 3 Marvel movies, all unanimously well praised. The first, like pretty much all of them. Like, I think the first one is the most beloved. A lot of people like 2. I think it's the best one, but there are a lot of people that prefer 3 because of the emotional drive of that movie. But people love all 3
movies, right?
Yeah, the Guardians movies. That's what I'm saying. So all 3 of those movies are loved. Then you get to his, and then you get to maybe some of his weirder movies before, like Slither or Super or, like Tromeo and Juliet. He's got a lot of weird movies, but like some of those indie flicks, a lot of people love, and he has a weird style, and that could be brought to Superman in little kind of ways. And then you had the Suicide Squad, which, was a box office failure, but that was mainly because of COVID. But it was like the highest rated, like, DCEU movie since like Wonder Woman at that point. People loved that movie. So James Gunn, and he has a plan. He knows what he's doing. He's putting a lot of care into this. He's doing new things. Like, he's not doing the needle drops. He's not doing this. So he's doing a lot, and it feels like he knows what he's doing, and it will work. My number 3 is it's doing enough similarly and differently to work. Like that perfect balance of doing what has worked in the past and some newer things that we haven't seen. Like, in terms of similarly, it's got the John Williams theme that's recognizable. It has like that kind of tried and true Boy Scout vibe that we've gotten many times in the past. And he's doing a lot of things that we've seen before, like the Christopher Reeve and Brandon Routh and Henry Cavill versions. We've gotten those similar themes and ideas that we've seen before. So there's that. But he's doing stuff some differently. Like he's bringing us characters we haven't seen on the big screen before, like Guy Gardner or Mr. Terrific or Crypto. and he's really like making a world that's lived in, because yeah, you could say a lot about Iron Man in terms that felt like the start of something, in terms of like this is the beginning, and to the races. Yes, that was retconned in other movies and shows, but that Iron Man was still the beginning of that. This feels like this isn't the beginning, but like it also is, and that's kind of interesting as well. And that's kind of different from what we've gotten before in terms of not just Superman, but superhero movies and cinematic universes. So there is that as well. Um, but this is another one that I think is a big thing, is it's made for all ages. I mean, we've been talking about many a times before how this is what do you say, a four quadrant film?
Yep.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the term.
So like it's made for kids, it's made for teens, it's made for adults, and it's made for the elderly, because it's like it's got a little bit something for everyone. Like for kids, it's got like that more fun vibe. You have a dog, you have a cute dog, you have like it's very silly and goofy, but then it has like teen stuff where it has like that relatability vibe of the main character. Like he's a guy that's struggling through life, trying to find his purpose. That's things that like teenagers can very much relate to, because they're trying to find their place in the world. And puberty is giving you all sorts of like annoying shit. Like every one of us watching right now has been through that, and it's awkward and weird. So they might identify with that. And then adults, maybe they have like a not great job, just feeling hopeless, and this brings them hope. And plus, it could just bring in old fashioned fun, bring them in, like reminding them of better times, reminding them of the books they read as a kid or something like that. And then for even elderly, like I remember, that when I, saw, fucking George Reeves or Kirk Allen, that like kind of goofy dad vibe that David Corenswet brings. So I feel like it has just a little bit of like the action like teenagers and adults can do, that can like. So there's that as well. So I think it's made for all ages, rather than Zack Snyder's version, which is mainly like young teenagers, young adults. So I feel like getting everybody is really good. And then the marketing has just been so good. Like it's like almost to the brink of annoying you, but not quite annoying you, because it's like it's constantly reminding you it exists. This is a movie that WB is confident, so they are selling it. They're like, okay, Dairy Queen, this thing, like Fossil, fucking this, that, and the other thing, like shirts and mugs and toys and TV spots playing constantly, like the Superman museum, like what's shown here, the Super Museum, like showing this, and like just like really showcasing the like love for this character and being confident in this character to like be like the marketing being shoved in your face. So that's why that's the last reason why I think this will do well. I think it will succeed. And it helps. It's like it's one thing of like, oh yeah, this movie, da, da, da. But it's like see this movie and people are like, oh damn, like I'm seeing so much. I'm like, I guess I gotta go see this movie. So that's also another thing that I really, really appreciated, and I
Yeah.
think will make this movie succeed.
I think you'll have to switch around the screen. For some reason, I'm locked up here. Oh wait, I'm okay. There we go. Boom. All right, moving on. So these are these are your 5 reasons why Superman will succeed, John. But then what about the 5 reasons why you think Superman will fail? Let's talk about those for a second.
Yeah. So the things that it could fail, maybe not majorly, but fail in the eyes of WB and in the main audience, is that it is sandwiched between Jurassic World Rebirth. Yeah, we did talk about how, it had the lowest cinema score rating, this, that, and the other thing. But like the thing is, every single movie in this franchise has either gotten $1 billion or really fucking close to $1 billion.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much even something as horrible as Dominion, from what I heard. I haven't seen it. Could be the greatest thing ever, but from what I heard, it's a terrible movie. that what got $1 billion. But that also helped because of the nostalgia bait reasons, because it had Jeff Goldblum, Laura Dern, and Sam Neill in it. So that helped matters, even though they were barely in the movie. But
I mean,
even
I don't know if I would
then,
agree that there's as much guaranteed money for Fantastic Four as there is for Jurassic
here's the thing.
World.
I'm not talking about money making success in terms of Fantastic Four. I'm just talking about the money making success of Jurassic World Rebirth, because Jurassic movies make money. They make bank, and they have like a somewhat stylish director that could work as a director for hire. They have 3 to 4 well-known people that people could gravitate towards, like ScarJo, Mahershala Ali, Jonathan Bailey being in Wicked, and Rupert Friend, depending on who you are. And then dinosaurs. People love dinosaurs. So, and there's, from what I've heard, there's a lot of callbacks to the original, so people might be into that. So there's that as well. And yes, Marvel hasn't had a lot of success. The last 2 movies didn't make money. However, Fantastic Four is still very like Thunderbolt. Who the fuck knows Thunderbolts? Nobody knows Thunderbolts. And sure, they know those characters, but that's not going to break in the cash. And then Brave New World, it has the Black Captain America, so you have all the racist people that are not going to go see that. So, and it's like, Sam Wilson, who cares about Sam Wilson, quote unquote. So Fantastic Four, people know Fantastic Four. We've gotten these characters before, and people have looked back at them with nostalgia, and they've liked what they've seen. Plus, they can remember the old animated shows that maybe they watched as a kid. And the thing is, it's got America's sweetheart, Pedro Pascal, in the movie. It's got Vanessa Kirby, that a lot of people like,
America's
great
Daddy.
actress.
Yeah.
And Joseph Quinn, the beloved Eddie from Stranger Things. So
Mhm.
you have that. And you have Cousin from The Bear. So you have that. And you have like some like known villains like Galactus, who is now not a cloud. So that helps. You have Silver Surfer. And you also have a bunch of other, allegedly John Malkovich. We don't know if he's cut from the movie or not, but we'll see. And then Paul Walter Hauser, and it's like it's
But I mean,
appearing
it's
to be
2 weeks
getting
away
different.
from Superman.
But it
so...
is 2 weeks away. But it is still kind of sandwiched in between those. It's Marvel is still technically more popular than DC. So
I
people
suppose
and
that's fair.
Fantastic Four is one of the most well-known Marvel things that Marvel has. So there's that. So that could not work in Superman's favor.
Mhm.
And the next one is that maybe Snyder cultists will actually be able to do something, is that they have a lot more influence. Maybe it's not a minority, maybe it is a majority, and we're gonna get a lot of screwed up things. I've seen a lot of dark things as more and more as the movie gets closer and closer. I've seen dark stuff like, not dark, but like, we're gonna boycott the movie, we're gonna do all this stuff. And then I've had a really serious thing where people have threatened what happened in Colorado for Dark Knight Rises. I've actually seen that. I don't know if it was real or not, but it was not good. So I've seen stuff like that extreme. So, I mean, stay safe out there, ladies and gents. Just be aware. If you see something, say something. But so that could bring about some majorly screwed up stuff, because that was the big thing with Joker. Oh my God, it's going to happen again. When it turns out people just took some pictures on some stairs. But, sometimes people are out there and they can hurt people. So, whether it's that extreme or just like boycotting the movie, and that's going to have some major influence, the whole James Gunn racist comments, which I know and are bullshit, but there are idiots out there that'll be like, oh, this guy sucks, I'm not going to go watch the movie now. So, and Snyder cults will be like, oh, look at this guy's racist. So it's like, that could bring about some downfall in regards to this. So maybe not a major one, but enough to leave some kind of imprint. So yeah.
All right, then number 3 we got
I mean, what was the last 4 DC movies that we saw on the big screen? Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which people hated. The Flash, which people hated, and it bombed. Blue Beetle, which was a marginal hit, but like that's kind.
I was like, don't forget Joker Folie Ado, but yeah, there you go.
And Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom, and I Folie Ado, the last thing last 5 movies were either poorly received, bombed, or both. So, yeah, sure, Superman is popular, but general audiences could see the last 5 movies and they're like, yeah, I don't want to. And people who know better see DC and they're like, you know what? I don't want to. If that's the Joker musical, no, I'm not going to watch that. And they just don't want to see this movie. So maybe the idea of like seeing that will turn off enough people that are like, you know what? I don't want to see this. No, we're good. And DC just has too much sin in the public eye. So they don't want to go see this.
Yeah.
So there's that as well.
Fair enough.
And then, Superman, yes, he's popular, but because popularity brings about a lot of badness in the eyes of people. So there's a lot of people, you have the cultists versus the non-cultists, like you have that baggage. Maybe general audiences kind of see that and see like, oh, I don't want to be a part of that. That's stupid. I don't want to deal with that. And then you have the things that people would say for decades, like he's too boring, he's too overpowered. Oh, this looks lame. Or the reasons that more people are saying, like, oh, he looks weak. Why are we seeing a bloody Superman? I don't want to see that. Why are there's too much going on? I don't like this. What is this? Why is cinematic? No. I don't want to watch this. This is too much. So I think there is a lot of baggage that Superman has as a character over the fucking glasses disguise is dumb, or why does he look like a dork? Why is this like a lot of dumb things that people will be just like, I don't want to watch that because of the baggage Superman has as a character.
I think that's fair. It's also not easy to write a good Superman movie because too boring, too overpowered. Those have been common criticisms. Like he's too perfect. Where's the conflict coming from? Although we have seen quite a bit to the contrary in this movie, but at least so far from the trailers and everything. But all right, John, so you got one more reason why Superman will fail. Huge budget for the film and marketing.
Yeah.
Go ahead. How would you explain that? Because I think the reported budget is like 225 million. Some people think maybe even up to 250. And then the marketing, the reports are somewhere between 100 to 200 million. So at maybe the middle number on that is 150. So you look at it, this movie, they might have spent close to $500 million or somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 million.
They would
putting it out there.
500 million to break even and possibly have to make $1 billion to make a profit.
Probably like 700 if you do the math. Yeah, like 750.
Because usually the thing is triple the budget to make a profit. Like if we're talking
triple. It's usually like 1.5, I think, because
yes,
theaters keep like 60 to 70%. Not theaters, studios keep 60 to 70% of the profits. Closer to 70%. It averages out because it varies with each distributor. So like the deal with AMC will be slightly different than from Regal and other distributors around the world, or IMAX and stuff like that. So on that front, if they spend close to 400 million making the movie, I think 700 is roughly the number that they will need to make to break even, which is a high number to break even.
It's a high number to break even and then make a profit, and then in the eyes of DC Studios, WB, they're like, oh well, that's not enough. Cancel it, and they'll just be like, nope, this wasn't enough, and so it's a big number to break it. This is probably the biggest thing that has this is the only really genuinely big thing that I see that this could really fuck the movie over is the monstrous budget and the monstrous marketing campaign. Don't get me wrong, the marketing campaign has been great, but sometimes, and the idea of spending money to make money, yes, but that could bite them in the ass in the end.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tricky because you're trying to find that balance, and the priority here is reestablish DC as a prestige brand and in the mind of your audiences. So whether spending too much money is going to end up, having the opposite effect, I guess we'll find out. But those are your reasons, John, for why Superman will succeed or why Superman will fail. Let me dive into some of mine here. So, of course, I put together the same or similar list rather, because like we have some differences here. But the very first thing on my list for the 5 reasons why I think Superman will hit is, well, Superman will be a hit because WB and DC marketing has been on point, something that John was just pointing out. And the reason why I say that is like we've talked about it, like, you know, all the time, repeatedly. So like just the Superman museum stuff is like, you know, small potatoes compared to the world tour that they're doing, the merchandise stuff. We literally spend almost 3 hours a day now talking about that stuff on this channel, like the amount of marketing, all the different, you know, collaborations, Pizza Hut, Burger King, Alex and Ani, and, you know, we were talking about Posh Peanuts the other day in RVLTS. Like it's just all these clothing brands, merchandise, like the DC shop, like all the crypto stuff, the popcorn buckets, the market. I mean, the trailers have been on point. The first, trailer for this like broke records for DC and Warner Brothers. So their marketing has been on point. I think this Superman movie will be a hit simply because of how good they've done a job at the viral marketing, kind of following that Barbie playbook or even iterating on that and going a step further. So I think that will be a big part of it. Then number 2 for me is the majority of DC fans and general audiences are ready for a new Superman, because it's been 12 years since we had our last Superman solo movie with Henry Cavill. Now, granted, the last time we saw him in a suit, in the suit, donning his Man of Steel suit, was in Black Adam, which was a couple of years ago. But, you know, obviously, it kind of was a bit of a false start to something that never came to pass. And the last time we truly saw him in a movie, starring in a movie, was Zack Snyder's Justice League in 2021. So it was a very turbulent, you know, few years where he was already divisive after Man of Steel. Henry Cavill was not of his own fault. He's an actor. He's taking the script and making the most of it. But the stories they were telling at DC, they weren't obviously popular with the majority of the audiences. So I think a lot of people who were disheartened by that version of Superman, I think, you know, that they obviously enjoyed Tyler Hoechlin's Superman on the small screen, but they now want to see, you know, the big screen Superman, more of that classic, that iconic Superman, that old school, you know, effervescent, just vibrant, you know, the guy who just wants to do good for the sake of doing good. He wants to save people or help people who are in need. They want that Superman back, the Christopher Reeves version of the character, the character that we saw in like the 90s, the characters that pops off the comic book pages. And I feel like there's enough of those DC fans and general audiences, and they have that appetite clearly from when you look at the numbers for how well the trailers and other marketing materials for this Superman movie have done, the attendance at all these premiere events. You know, the trailer, just the trailer numbers themselves are an indicator of how much the general audience wants to see this, because you don't get those kind of numbers in millions, hundreds of millions of views simply because all the super fans and all the big DC fans went to see the trailer. Everybody saw that Superman trailer. So I think, you know, that goes to show you everybody and the majority of general audiences and the vast majority of DC fans are ready for a new Superman. Then you look at number 3 on my list. You've got James Gunn, hasn't missed the mark yet. Whether it's the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy or the Suicide Squad that he did, or Peacemaker, you know, with season 2 coming out. And the fact that he's as devoted as he is, that he wrote almost, 700 pages, over 600 pages of story in a matter of like just 2 years time. And then obviously went on and executed that, being closely involved with Creature Commandos, directing Superman, which took up a couple of years of his life, and then obviously, you know, not only writing but directing almost half the episodes of Peacemaker, and being the co-studio head and co-CEO with Peter Safran, where he's basically had a hand in everything that's currently in the works, from Supergirl to Lanterns to obviously Peacemaker, as I mentioned, and then Clayface and the Waller TV series, Booster Gold, whatever's happening with, you know, both Batman Brave and the Bold and the Batman. And he hasn't missed yet. Like, his own track record as a director is pretty solid. I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy is probably one of the best, if not, in my opinion, the best trilogy that the MCU has put together. Like, it's certainly up there with Captain America's trilogy and Iron Man's trilogy. I feel like overall, quality-wise, Guardians might be better than all of them, quite frankly. So James Gunn has already shown his mettle as a filmmaker. And then, you know, the Suicide Squad was what is kind of like his tryout with DC. and then he went back and did Guardians 3. But now that he's firmly entrenched in the world of DC, I can't see, his track record, turning this movie into, it's just a bad day at the office. Everybody can have a bad day at the office. Patty Jenkins had that with Wonder Woman 1984. Steven Spielberg, I'm sure, has missed the mark a few times. So with that said, I just don't think with the stakes being so high that he's going to miss the mark with the Superman movie. And then when you look at the next point that I have here for why Superman will be a hit, pre-sales tracking is huge. We were just yesterday on the show talking about the fact that because of the pre-sales numbers being as high as they are, like I think they were quoting something like, 20 to 30 million or more than that in just pre-sales alone. Now, I know I was trying to mention this yesterday, and I don't know if I got it across, but pre-sales are always an indicator of how much the fans of the franchise are wanting to see this movie. And those numbers are big. Even for like a Marvel movie, those would be considered big. And then, a lot of the average audience members, they don't do pre-sales. They're not going to buy their tickets ahead of time. They're going to show up on the weekend, watch the movie. So you can't really judge their impact on the movie yet. But the pre-sales tracking alone goes to show you that, a lot of DC fans are going to go to see it. And even some semi-casual fans will go see it. And then if there's that much interest from the people who know about Superman, I can only imagine the word of mouth is going to drive the average, moviegoer who's not like watching this show or watching every single trailer and piece of marketing this movie is putting out. They will go and see the movie too. So I think the pre-sales tracking numbers being so positive definitely will be a big boost. And then, of course, reason number 5, you can't not have this on the list, John. Crypto. I think from the moment we saw Crypto in the first trailer, and he's trucking through the snow like a snow piercer, and then he's a ball of energy. He's modeled on James Gunn's own dog Ozu. He's not a very good dog, but sometimes he's still just the cutest doggy. So I can't wait to see how involved Crypto is. He could fly. He's got a cape. He could fight. I mean, he's clearly Kryptonian. Superman is fostering him. Like, how does that tie into maybe the story of Supergirl? There's so much to do here. It's not like here's the thing.
Yeah.
In Superman, Crypto is not a gimmick. Crypto's not there just to sell toys. Crypto is firmly a part of the story. He's there to elevate.
Kills two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
He is there to sell toys, yes, but but
not
James
just
Gunn didn't
toys,
do that purposefully, like with WB with like the Joel Schumacher movies. We're doing this because we want to sell toys. James Gunn isn't that wasn't on his mind. He's like, how can I make this work with Superman's character? How it relates to my own experience with getting a dog, all that. I've seen so many people that are like, I wasn't interested in seeing this movie, but then I saw Crypto, and now I'm definitely going to be seeing this movie.
I mean, Fiona is like one of those people. She's like, oh, I'm going to go see this movie for the Crypto. It's like, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, a lot of people will go see it just for Crypto, and then go get themselves the popcorn buckets and the merchandise and all the plushie toys they can get their hands on. Maybe even adopt a dog because they have that partnership with the Best Animals Friends Society. So it's just great what they're doing here. I mean, clearly James Gunn loves dogs, and I mean, who doesn't love dogs? But and they're parlaying that into just being an essential part of the movie, not only from the story, the larger DCU, but also just from the marketing execution of this movie's this pathway to the movie theater. But moving on to the reasons why I think the movie might flop. Which obviously, we don't want to talk about them necessarily because we don't want to see that outlook, but it could happen. It could happen. There's always a chance, even, though it's pretty unlikely, at least seems to be pretty unlikely, but however unlikely it may be, there's always the possibility the Superman movie might just flop or certainly disappoint based on the expectations that we have, some very lofty ones, depending on who you talk to. So the 5 reasons why I think Superman will flop. Number 1, DC's recent track record could still drag this movie's heels. What I mean by that is, of course, like what John said earlier, the last 5 DC movies were all considered pretty much flops. I think Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom might have just barely broken even. And depending on who you ask, Black Adam might have broken even. But quite frankly, that's about the best news that we have seen. Like, all 5 movies either barely broke even, if at all, arguably broke even, or were just massive flops. Like, Flash lost Warner Brothers hundreds of millions of dollars. And then, of course, Shazam lost them tens of millions of dollars. And all the controversy, around the actors that were involved in the franchise, from Amber Heard to Ezra Miller to even Zachary Levi and The Rock, and it just created this dark cloud, and where they needed a complete reset. And as much as I loved Henry Cavill as Superman and loved Man of Steel and a lot of those movies that Zack Snyder worked on, and even Wonder Woman, like Wonder Woman 1984, not so much. I think I was in agreement, and I still am, that I think this was the right move. You want to start fresh. You want to go in a new direction. You want to recast. I mean, yeah, you can always do a crossover and bring some of those, actors back in those iconic roles in like a Crisis on Infinite Earth sort of a thing, or a multiverse event. But a fresh start was needed, and yet, I mean, people go off of like, what have you done for me lately? And when it comes down to what have you done for me lately, the last thing a DC movie did was Joker for All You Do. So for somebody who might have gone to see that movie and they don't really follow all the trailers and marketing for Superman, granted, Superman and Joker are two very different characters, they may yet not choose to go see this movie. So simply because DC, they just feel like has just not delivered in recent times. But reason number two, this, like John, I think you had it on your list too. The Snyderverse vocal minority makes a measurable impact? Question mark. I mean, it is a question mark because we call them a vocal minority, so by definition, they are not big enough of a, or loud enough certainly to make a difference. But you never know. This is the thing, right? Like we're talking about polling and stuff. It's an imperfect science. Whether it's box office projections and stuff. So maybe the impact of this vocal minority will be felt, much more loudly than we expect. I mean, look at the country we live in today. Some people used to think it was a vocal minority, and now, now the person they voted for is in the White House. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to make this about politics, but I'm just saying sometimes a vocal minority may not be such a minority after all, or they might be just loud enough to shift the narrative a little bit. So I just hope that the worst elements of what you mentioned, certainly don't come to true at all. But the Snyderverse fandom is out there, and not every Snyder fan is toxic, but there are,
the truth is
certain
out
very
there.
loud
The cultists
few.
are out there.
Yeah, I hope this will not have a measurable impact. I mean, there's a lot of safeguards in place. Rotten Tomatoes verifies ratings. If you went and saw the movie, that's the only way you can give your rating there. The critics' ratings are not affected by that. So I think in terms of educating the people who want to go see this movie, it won't have as much of an impact, but you never know. I mean, that's the wild card, right? So number three, though, the story is a jumbled mess, too many characters, right? We've always talked about, almost from the time when they were filming the movie last year, that are there too many characters in this movie? Like, is there too much going on? Is it just going to be a jumbled mess? And I know so far the vast majority of the reactions, because again, we're doing this show before we have gotten the review embargo lifted, so we don't quite know what most critics think about it yet. So you guys let us know in the comments if you're watching this after the review embargo lifted, where things land. But as of right now, the one or two negative reactions I've seen, I've said it's a bit of a mess. It's a little bit jumbled. There's too much going on, maybe too many characters. They couldn't quite balance it out. Any movie can fall prey to this, quite frankly. Like, we saw this with Spider-Man 3. It was a jumbled mess, had too many characters, and Sam Raimi's just, had a bad day at the office, couldn't quite handle it all. I'd imagine James Gunn kind of going into this, knowing what he had the ability to do and the freedom to do. I hope he made all the right decisions. So far, the trailers make it seem like he did. But then again, we have all seen good trailers to bad movies. So I just hope that it turns out to be the case that it's not a jumbled mess, because I remember seeing Batman v Superman in the movie theater, and I felt like there's got to be like a half hour, 40 minutes missing from this movie. And then we found out indeed there was. So I'm not saying that will be the problem here, but I mean, again, there's a lot going on in this film, and while it's not trying to set up 5 other movies, you still have, a lot of, different characters and story beats and plots and subplots to balance out. So I hope they get that right. Number 4, the competition snuffs it out, kind of similar to what John said. Again, more overlap in our list. The competition in this case, I think I mean more so Jurassic World obviously is a big franchise, and the last 2 movies have made $1 billion. So chances are, given how big of a start Jurassic World Rebirth has gotten off to, with almost $250 million just an opening weekend alone. Granted, it's a 5-day opening weekend over the 4th of July. um, it will still be making money next week, like when Superman comes out, and it might make 50 million, it might make 45, but that's still a big chunk of change. And it will still be around kicking and probably making half of that number, like maybe 20-25 million the following weekend when Superman is in its second weekend. Then when you get to Fantastic Four, look, if the tide might turn in favor of Fantastic Four, especially if people are like, oh man, the Superman movie is a little disappointing. I wonder what Fantastic Four is going to be like. And, Marvel puts out another piece of marketing that really sends it home. Or Fantastic Four turns out to be the better movie. Who knows? I mean, any of those things could come true. And like you said, John, just because Fantastic Four is part of the MCU, its floor is automatically higher than when Fox was making Fantastic Four movies. So yeah, the ceiling is higher, the floor is higher, even though the MCU is not in the best place right now. The MCU is still the MCU. They still have an incredibly successful track record. So having Superman sandwiched between, a guaranteed $1 billion franchise, which, I mean, nobody's saying that this Jurassic World movie will make $1 billion guaranteed, but it's going to get off to the kind of start that it needs to have any chance at doing it. And then Superman comes in, and like, for all we say and make fun of Smurfs, they will still make some money. That movie will still make money. So you have competition. It's the summer movie season. We have talked about how movies these days have a hard time kind of like legging out to get to the point where they make $1 billion, which is why it's even more impressive in today's environment that movies are still, like, every once in a while making $1 billion. Like, Minecraft kind of petered out. I don't know if Lilo and Stitch is going to be able to get all the way to the $1 billion mark, but Superman has a big task ahead of itself. So hopefully the competition doesn't snuff it out. And given the amount of money they've spent to raise awareness for this movie and raise hype around it, I hope that it won't get snuffed out by the competition, because certainly when it comes to the, who's the loudest kid on the block, when it comes to July 2025, I can firmly tell you, doing this show 5 days a week, which is just more than about just Superman, we talk about everything in Hollywood. I can tell you the loudest kid on the block this month has been and will continue to be Superman. So, I don't think it's going to get snuffed out by the competition, but there's always the chance that it can. Now, the last reason that I have here is the audience reactions are divisive, kind of like Man of Steel, a la Man of Steel. So that's one thing that I think would be a bigger nail in the coffin of this Superman than any other reason on this list. Because the whole reason why Man of Steel, was considered not so much a success was not because it financially was a loss maker. Man of Steel was profitable. It actually made a good amount of money for Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. But the reason why Warner Brothers panicked after Man of Steel was because it was very divisive with the critics and divisive with the audiences. The critic score was 57%. The audience score was a paltry 75%. Any movie that has a audience score of less than like 82-85%, that movie did not go over well with the fans. Even though 75% is still a pretty significant percentage, usually, audiences, you want to see somewhere in the 80s and 90s to be like, oh, overall really, really good. With critics, 57 is a failing grade, right? So like, I hope that the numbers for this movie are much higher on both fronts, in the 80s and the 90s, certified fresh, certified hot, like whatever you want to call it for critics and audience scores. But beyond that, the cinema score, I hope this gets somewhere in the A's, A-, AA+. That's what I want to see, because they're also building out a cinematic universe. What you don't want to have happen is the first movie is divisive, and that will then taint everything else that comes after it. So that's also why the audience reactions are very, very important. This movie needs to hit the mark and land the plane, and then get ready to launch everything else that comes after,
or land the Mr. Terrific,
the T-Craft. But I will say James Gunn knows his way around populist media, and he did a great job with the Guardians movies, handling a vast diversity of characters. And he's got some really fantastic actors here. Richard Brosnahan, award-winning
really
actress.
Fantastic actors. He's fantastic for.
Yeah. But I mean, also he's bringing along his friends, which I do appreciate. But Nathan Fillion is doing a great job from everything that we have seen so far. However long his character lasts in the movie, fingers crossed. But the kaiju looks fantastic. The fact that James Gunn is getting to just nerd out as a filmmaker harder than he's ever nerded out before. And like you said, things like Crypto and Lex Luthor being his maniacal self. I have a lot of hope, and then getting a very very comic accurate Daily Planet. That that we will get a movie that is universally accepted and loved because like I said, the biggest thing.
I'm sorry, that shot goes so hard.
This
It's
one,
so good.
yeah, it's just the power, right?
Again, it's just like it reminds me aesthetically of Man of Steel. And the thing is, you could say a lot
Yeah.
of things about Man of Steel, even though I don't like the blue gray tinting. The cinematography in that movie is great. Like,
Baller.
say
One of the
what you will
best.
about that movie. Like,
Yeah.
here's the thing: I give like Man of Steel like a 4 out of 10. The 4 is still more than like a 1 or a half. So I still give it some credit. Like the casting is on point, the cinematography is on point, and this is the biggest thing. The VFX are on point. Like,
Mhm.
look at the VFX in terms of similarity with the Kryptonian stuff, in terms of Man of Steel versus the Flash. 10 years
Night
later,
and
and
day,
the
night and
Flash
day.
looks like dog shit. Man of Steel, again, I'm not a huge fan of the look of the Kryptonian
Mhm.
technology, but it still looks great to this day, no matter what you say. So, and the action scenes, even though I think they go on too long and they're kind of fluff after a while, they're well executed, at least in the beginning. And it does have some memorable characters. So, and the thing is, it has that like aesthetic. And I think James Gunn is, I wouldn't say borrowing, but he's like inspired by aesthetic. I mean, he said that
Yeah.
like Man of Steel, he was inspired by Man of Steel, and I think Man of Steel has some good in it that it's good to be inspired by, especially from a visual standpoint. It's
Yeah.
just I'm glad that he's bringing color to that, unlike Zack Snyder. But
I
that's
mean, that's Zack Snyder's style. This is James Gunn's style. I mean, that's just the whole like whose signature style does what best, right? So,
Mhm.
Zack Snyder paints great pictures, but oftentimes they're like very monotonous or don't have a ton of color to them. But I mean, James Gunn gives us crypto, right? Like, so there's two very different kind of like filmmaking styles. But look, ultimately, like I said, audience reactions being divisive would be the biggest nail in the coffin. Hopefully that won't be the case. I think the 5 reasons why Superman will flop, I had a much harder time filling those out, and a lot of those I don't even half believe myself. Versus the 5 reasons why the Superman will be a hit. And I think John, you had kind of a similar conversation with yourself. Like, yes, there's all these reasons why it might not work, but then there's all these reasons why it might work. And I think
Mhm.
we're just the reasons why this movie will be a hit are just a lot more convincing right now based on everything we have seen, which is a good sign. So
Mhm.
on that front, I think we have kind of like hit the nail
Beat a
on the
dead
head here with
horse
the reasons. We're beating a dead
or
horse at this
beat a
point.
dead crypto.
Come on, man. Come on. You brought that dog, man. All right. Let's ask the folks
This was a
watching.
John Wick movie. Hello.
I hope we don't go there. Then Lex will actually die in this film. Or if he doesn't die in the movie, I'm sure people will get him after the fact. But hey, guys, whether you're watching live or if you're watching after the fact, let us know what you thought about the 5 reasons why both John and I decided, or think at least, why
Yeah.
Superman will either flop or be a hit. Do you relate to those? Do you agree with those? And what reasons do you think Superman will succeed or fail? Let us know in the comments down below. We would love to hear from you guys. But we're not done yet, John, because the last thing we got to do to finish off our week, as we always do, is
It's
get
got
into
that
that
Q&A.
Q&A session. So, John, you've got some comments pulled up for us. Let's
Mhm.
go through those. Let's answer the comments, the questions, the fan theories that people have. And then, we will wish everybody a 4th of July and say goodbye for the weekend. And then on Monday,
Yes.
we've got reviews to talk about. But, John, the Q&A session comes first. What do we have?
So the first thing that people were talking about, I think this might be it's one of the regulars. It's not the username we know of. I don't think it's Manos. I think it's Ribera. I think it's him, 'cause same profile, but his username here is Dross1984. I think Eva
I think it's Manolo.
J
I think it's Manolo. Yeah, I saw the
Manolo.
photo.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is it Rivera or Ribera? I don't remember.
It's either Manolo or it's either Marco. It might be Marco. It's one of
I
those two
don't
guys.
know. Like, there's there's too many M's,
Yeah.
guys. I'm sorry.
But we
But
will
anyway,
go off of D Ross 1984 right now. So yeah.
so Dross 1984. I think Eva de Dominici could be a good choice for Wonder Woman. I think Adria might be a better actress, but I believe that Eva de Diamonici should have the opportunity for a casting. Unfortunately, I am not familiar with this actress. Maybe I've seen her in something and I don't know the name. Maybe she's a character actress, like, oh, I know that face. But unfortunately, I can't say that I know the name.
I'm gonna
So I'll
pull her IMDb up. Let's take a look. So I think I've got her up here. If you let's see if you can put that on screen. So this is Eva Di Dominici. I recognize the actor on the right there. She was in The Cleaning Lady. Okay, Adam Canto. I remember him from that show that was on ABC a while ago. I forgot what it was called. It was anyway. I'll come. She, I feel like could play the part. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of her work, but I mean, she's certainly got the physique. She's got the looks. She's got the stature. I mean, again, having seen the show or this movie, I don't know. I mean, visually, I think
the
she
thing
can do
is,
it.
if we're just talking about a visual standpoint, I can see it. But the thing is, I can't
Yeah,
comment on acting ability, charisma,
yeah.
like action ability. So I'll take your word for it. But I think visually, I think she can do a good job. It's just
Mhm.
like it's more than just pretty looks, as we know with Gal Gadot.
Right.
So
I mean,
Kal-El.
but Gal Gadot also was chosen because she could do the physicality of the role, and that's what was a
Yeah.
big focus for Zack Snyder. I think James Gunn has shown so far that yes, while he will hire actors who are specializing in certain areas because the role might be like a smaller supporting role, in terms of the big leading roles that he's got so far, he's picking actors who are worth their weight, who can do their job and hold their own. So again, not knowing as much about Eva's like acting ability, I can't really speak to it as much. Like you said, John, the same. Whereas what we've seen so far, like Nicholas Hoult, he knows a thing or two about acting. Richard Brosnahan knows a thing or two about acting, right? The new Batman in the DCU will probably know a thing or two about good acting. So I have a feeling that if they were to hire Eva for the role, she would need to know a thing or two about good acting. So she only looks the part, and whether it's you're looking from a heritage standpoint of the character of Wonder Woman, she's a Greek goddess, or height and stature, and clearly she's incredibly beautiful.
Height matters.
And I don't know if she can do a lot of action. But then again, you don't have to know how to do action. They have stunt people for that, but certainly like the physicality of the role will be a key as well. But who knows? Maybe D. Ross knows more about her than we do, and she might as well be the perfect fit. Who knows? But we can't really speak to as much as we would be able to for another actor that we are more familiar with. So, all right, John, let's go on to the next one. What we have next? But we appreciate the suggestion from D. Ross. You might have just done James Gunn's job for him. So
maybe.
Yeah.
So the next one we have is this was for our tier list in terms of Batman. I mentioned Ryan Coogler, and Ryan Coogler seems to like magic, as referencing, I assume, Sinners, Justice League Dark. I don't know. The thing is, Ryan Coogler hasn't done like a proper ensemble movie. Now you can make the argument that Sinners is an ensemble, but I mean like that was more Michael B. Jordan's movie with the twins and then everyone else. It was still their movie, and obviously the preacher's son. Unfortunately, Smokestack and the kid. Unfortunately, I'm forgetting his name, but it was mainly their movie. Now he hasn't done a big like team movie because all the other ones are it's like Creed, Fruitvale Station, Black Panther. Those are all usually 1 to 2 protagonists, but like a proper ensemble, we haven't really seen that from Coogler just yet. So I don't know if he could like make it work, but the thing is he's insanely talented.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he can make it work. And he does like magic because we kind of bring in that aspect in Black Panther like a little bit. More like the technological science, like what's the famous Arthur C. Clarke quote where it's like magic is indiscernible from science.
Any sufficiently advanced technology can appear as can be mistaken for science. Or sorry, can be mistaken
Indiscernible
for
from
magic. Indiscernible from magic. There you go.
Yes, so that
Yeah.
is could be the case, like, oh, we're bringing that magic, and Ironheart, he did executively produce that, and that's magic based,
Yeah.
so he could probably make it work, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen a proper ensemble piece from him where I'd be like, oh yeah, 100%. Let me see
Yeah.
this.
I
But
actually responded to this comment in the comment section on YouTube. So this is what I said to Elite Easy. Look, it's possible, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea, and it would depend on, again, if Ryan Coogler is interested. But
yes,
I think the biggest reason I highlighted was it's all going to be a matter of availability. His upcoming slate of projects, which includes right now a lot of Marvel. I know he's not exclusive to Marvel, but it certainly has a lot of Marvel on his calendar. So he's executive producing Ironheart, which he just finished up. And he's working on Black Panther 3 famously. He probably has a couple other, irons in the fire over the MCU. He certainly hinted at that. He's also involved in Wonder Man, and I don't know to what degree, but he is. And then he's likely going to stay involved in any Wakanda-related project moving forward, because he's kind of like the executive producer of anything and everything Wakanda at the MCU. Not saying they can't do it without him, but he's just that person right now. And so it will really come down to whether he's got the time, like literally the time, to tackle something as big as a Justice League movie. Yes, Justice League Dark is not mainline Justice League, but it still is a Justice League movie. So the expectation will be there, and you'll need to do, like you said, John, an ensemble piece, which is not easy. And while I think Wakanda Forever was a decent movie, it was a significant step down from the first Black Panther. And while the first Black Panther was firmly a movie with one lead character, Wakanda Forever was an ensemble. And I thought that maybe Ryan Coogler couldn't quite in that movie, at least, didn't quite put the pieces together. And then on the DC side of things, they're not going to be tackling a Justice League movie for years. Like, we know,
let alone Justice League Dark.
Yeah, you got to first do an actual Justice League movie before you start to do any spin-offs and do like a Justice League Dark. We don't expect to see a Justice League movie until at least 2030. So I don't know. I mean, where would Ryan Coogler be at that point in time? We have no idea. So, like, I think it's too early to say anything about it. It's okay fantasizing about it from a realistic logistical standpoint. I think we are pretty far away from them even looking at a Justice League Dark project, no less having somebody like a Ryan Coogler attached to it. So, good suggestion. I just don't think it's going to be anything that's happening anytime soon. So
yeah,
let's keep the ball rolling here.
Yeah, but speaking of Tier List Tuesday with directors,
Mhm.
Kai Sweater threw his hat in the ring, wouldn't mind Ben Affleck directing and writing a Batman or a DC movie. Yes, as we all know, he was supposed to direct his own feature featuring him as Batman.
Supposedly that script still is in the halls of Warner Brothers DC somewhere.
So, and then Matt Reeves came in and completely changed it and made it his own thing, which is fine. But I think Ben Affleck is pretty much done with DC. I don't think he wants to come back.
He's too busy with artist equity with Matt Damon. Like, he wants the freedom to do his own thing. He doesn't want the mandates of a studio anymore.
Exactly. I don't think he wants to deal with that. I think he wants to do his own thing. But would I like to still? I mean, if he was like, this dude flips flops. Like, oh, I could come back. No, I never want to come back. Oh, Batman was fun. BVS was fucking terrible experience. So it's like, this dude flip flops constantly. So
yeah, I think the flip flopping, what that tells me is he's okay with coming in for like a one-off, right? So if they do a Crisis on Infinite Earths,
I could see him directing a Batman movie.
Yeah.
I could see him directing something else if he's interested, but if he's not, then leave him.
But like I said, I think he's okay with, at this point, given his flip-flop. I think what that tells me is he's okay with a one-off. He wants, maybe if he just needs to like spend a little bit of time, like maybe even a week or a couple of weeks, something like that, maybe a couple of months at most, be committed to any kind of project, that's fine. He'll come in and do that. Maybe just do something where, like with The Flash, he came in and shot scenes like, that took like a day. I mean, did it a few times, but like it wasn't anything significant. He wasn't there for weeks on at a time. But directing a movie means devoting like a year, 2 years of your life to that project. I just don't think he's willing to make that commitment to a DC project anymore, or anything like at that level, whether it's Marvel or DC. I don't think he's got the bug for it. I don't think he's got the itch for it. I don't think he's interested in all the ups and downs. He saw the worst of what that could look like with Zack Snyder, what happened to him with the previous regime at Warner Brothers. Not saying that will happen to Ben Affleck, but I mean, he also went through a lot of personal ordeals, like with the struggle with addiction and alcoholism at the time. So I think at this point he's going to steer clear of directing anything Batman. I mean, look, if that script gets picked up and gets used eventually, I'm sure he'll get credit for it. And he might be okay with a cameo, but I don't think he's going to do anything like directing a big DC movie, because it just takes too much time that he's not willing to commit to, DC or a big studio picture right now. So maybe it will change in the future, but not right now. So
right. So this was from I think Tuesday show or Wednesday show. Yeah, it was from Wednesdays, actually. Yes, every Superman should have their own uniqueness. I can't wait to see this movie. David definitely has the Superman voice. I agree. Whether it's more the Clark Kent voice or the Miss Lane, like that
Miss
Superman
Lane
voice.
It's like what did he say before that? It's like, okay, Kronk, right? And there's like Miss Lane. It's like the voice changes.
It's great.
Noticeable.
That Juilliard training coming in.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I would hope that Kirk Allen is different from George Reeves, or George Reeves is different from Christopher Reeve, or Christopher Reeve is different from Dean Cain, and Dean Cain is different from Brandon Routh, and or Tom Welling. Sorry, Tom Welling was the next one, and then Tom Welling feels different from Brandon Routh. Brandon Routh feels different from Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill feels different from him, because like these versions of the character are all from different eras and ages and writers, where there are things happening in this character's life that are so different from what the 50s Superman was going through. The 90s Superman should feel different from the 50s Superman, because you only had like 20 years of Superman comics to really go from that.
Yeah.
In all the 90s, you had
for a while he couldn't even
40,
fly. He could
50
just
years
leap
by that
buildings.
Yeah, 50, 60 years from that point. So it's like, it's a whole another thing. So I would hope that they do feel different, because the most recent comics are going to be different, and you have so much more history to go from and pull from, and you can do so many different things. That's why I respect David Cornsweet and other actors that are like, I hope to make my stamp on the character. I know I'm just a part of the history. I hate it when actors act like they're better than the character they're portraying. It's like, this character was nothing until I was a part of it. Even a character that hasn't been adapted yet, even a character that's only been around for 5 years, guess what? You're just still part of that history. Like Dominique Thorne, not like she's like acted like this at all. She's very respectful. I'm just saying Riri Williams is a very new character. Or, Shamik Moore, even though it's animated, he's part of the history of Miles. Dominique Thorne is part of history with Ironheart. Or, like these newer characters that are, seen and like, but they still respect it, where it's like, we're part of the history. But then you have like assholes coming in like, oh, I know so much better than this. And it's like, do you?
No, you're not above it.
You're not above it. And you try to act like you're above it. And that's not cool.
Yeah. And it's also like, I mean, we've been fortunate that every Superman that we have gone is pretty humble about it. We were talking about earlier in the week that Tyler Hoechlin was only supposed to be Superman for a couple episodes of Supergirl.
Yeah, of course. How could I forget Tyler Hoechlin?
That got turned into him having his own show eventually. And quite frankly, his own show, Superman and Lois, outclassed Supergirl and almost every other Arrowverse show he was ever a part of or crossed over with. And then with Henry Cavill too. I mean, regardless of how you feel about him, I still think Man of Steel is one of the best Superman movies ever made. It's my favorite one so far, not having seen the new Superman movie yet. But both Henry Cavill and Tyler Hoechlin talked to and exchanged letters with David Cornsweet and told him, like, do your own thing. We were happy for you, and make this your own. And then the next person will come in, and David Cornsweet has said as much, that he's the 12th Superman, but he hopes to leave the Superman role better than how he found it, and then he hopes that the next person gets to come in and do their own thing. So I mean, he's already looking at that down the road, even to the point he's like, I don't care if I'm the only if I'm only ever known for playing Superman in my career, I'm okay with that. So he's got this sense of humbleness to him, and that makes him unique too. But yeah, he's got the voice, he's got everything, he's got the right attitude. We can't wait to see what he turns that into.
Yeah.
Just excited for Superman.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then we have one final comment from yesterday's show. Someone who's very excited, the Salak Czar.
Hey, the
Woohoo,
Salak
watching it on
Czar.
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
And Sunday.
Bo
Holy cow.
He is, or they, he, she, they, sorry.
So they only missed Wednesday. They're taking Wednesday to rest and then just go back into it.
Well,
oh, there's no
Wednesday is not
screening. That's
available
true.
because
That's true.
Tuesday's
You're
the
not.
screening.
Well, maybe they can
Friday's-
fly to
Thursday is
France and
preview,
see it on
so-
Wednesday on France. Well, see it on Wednesday in France and then fly back across to the
Yeah, damn. But
Don't give them ideas.
they're definitely showing
yeah.
off that they got the cashish for this. Like that's like $50 right there.
Well, unless you have AMC A-list, then 4 of those are covered. So, or at least the Tuesday one you have to pay for separately. Then the other 4 are covered.
Because that's Fandango. So yeah. That's
Well,
like
yeah, I'm just saying, but like
40
Thursday, Friday,
but
Saturday, and
still,
Sunday it could be.
Well, the thing
A-list.
is, Tuesday is the Dolby screening, so that's $20 off the bat.
Mhm.
So then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if all of those are Dolby screenings, that's like $100. Like that's a lot of money.
Well, but I'm saying like if they have AMC A-list, you can do 4 movies a week, so you can cover all 4 of those
I
on
hope, or
Tuesday.
Regal Unlimited, whatever.
Or if you have
Cinemark
saved up
has.
enough credits with your Cinemark, you can. I mean, yeah, it's. I hope that the Salazar, you have a
hope that's what
plan.
you're doing, man. 'cause-
Let us know what your strategy is, and then we can talk about that on Monday's show.
But yeah,
But,
goddamn, sir, or ma'am, or
Yeah.
whoever, or whatever in between. But yeah,
Well, John, it's gonna be an amazing week. We've been building up to this week for weeks, months, and in our own ways, years. So I can't wait for Superman to finally be out. Monday, the review embargo drops, so we'll be talking about that. It is 4th of July today, so happy 4th of July if you guys are celebrating. If you are in the
Stay
US
safe.
watching,
drink responsibly,
safe.
light fireworks responsibly.
exactly. Absolutely, guys, and then stay safe out there. Have a happy, prosperous, wonderful,
Stay cool.
joyous weekend, a long weekend if you're in the US. And then, of course, we'll see you back on Monday with a lot more news from the world of Superman, DC, and Hollywood and beyond. Until then, guys, as James Gunn and Superman will tell you, and John, thank you again for another fantastic week of shows. Thank you, everybody watching live and everybody coming in after the fact. If you're watching us after we're live, hit subscribe. If you're new, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Hit the like button so we can get this show out in front of more eyeballs because we want to grow this community. But like I was saying, as James Gunn keeps telling us to do, as Superman would tell you to do, don't forget to look up.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see.
Right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you, really, I'm doing sublime. I never wait in the stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all on the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto.
Hunka hunka!